Oh,
I think I already fucked up and moved.
I think I did as well. Okay, let me see. When it comes up on my phone, that's when I know.
I'm trying to stay very still, but I know it's going to take a fucked up picture of me.
Here we are. Actually,
I think I already fucked up.
guess what? You don't look bad.
I don't look bad?
No. Oh, it's doing that thing where it's saying you can't live chat again. Why?
It's saying what?
It's saying that you can't live chat. Did it this last time?
Do I have to do something for it?
No, I think maybe you
Yo.
do. You try typing in it.
Hello, mates. Yeah, I just typed in it.
Oh yeah. It's so weird. It's like when you first click on it on my phone, it never lets you. Okay, let me just share on Discord. Hello, mates. Hello, governors. Okay, I'm just gonna share on Discord. And
You
then
do
you
Discord
Reddit.
and Reddit,
Yeah.
and let me do Facebook. All right. Stephanie looks so pregnant in that picture.
She is
doesn't she?
hella pregnant in that picture.
Fuck yeah.
Oh, I've tagged you in Instagram as well if you want to like share that on the Sycamore page. I really liked. Have you seen that story about that cockfight that guy posted on the page?
Oh, I do like that one. It's really short.
I know it's really short, but do you know what? I admire that cock.
You just like cock.
I do like cock. I tell you what, some of my favorite birds are chickens. Seagulls, pigeons, and chickens are like top tier birds for me.
Top tier.
Yo, atheist preacher. Hello, Mike. Hello, Arnold.
Why
How's
is
it
he up
going?
to how?
Oh
Why
my
is he
god, I
up this
love
fucking late?
the name Arnie. Yeah, atheist preacher. Are you not up super late, or are you trucking? Are you trucking through the night?
You trucking?
Was he trucking through the night?
Oh, fuck you, you motherfucker. You goddamn motherfucker.
Yeah, I love the name Arnie, but I think I suggested that for the Stephanie's baby, and it was
Why don't they like they don't like Arnie?
because it's so guy.
It is very goyish.
Yeah.
And they do not like goyish names.
Well, they want to honor the baby's Jewish heritage, don't they?
Which that's why they should name it Shmuley after my grandfather Shmuel.
Say Shmuel.
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 Shmuel. But Shmuely's just like the affectionate term.
Well, in Yiddish it'd be Shmuel, Shmuel.
Shmu-
But then they call him Shmuley for
Jesus.
like the affectionate nickname. Yeah.
So, what would that just be boys, or could that be a girl's name too?
No, it's Samuel. I guess Samantha. No, it'd be different.
That's what I mean. What would the feminized version of Shmuley be? Schmiley. Schmiley Cyrus. Schmile.
Schmiley Cyrus.
I wish I could do that thing where I could whistle when I say my S's. AP's fueling up. He's got a trucking convoy, and he's trucking
Wow.
night.
Atheist preacher, where are you off to? Like, where are you going? And have you come across any lot lizards? That's what I want to hear about.
The lot lizards. He's
wanna hear
a
about lot
married
lizards.
man. He doesn't need no lot lizard.
Yeah, but he probably still comes across them every now and then. You know what's
Every
what's
lot.
weird? I changed the post that I posted my sister and Jared and tried to boost it. And they said they wouldn't boost it because it's like adult content, just a pregnant woman.
Is it because she got her skin out?
You think so?
Yeah, it probably is. Adult content.
My sister has this. If you can see, you can see in the back in the picture in the background of the picture that she took, where with her big ass fucking pregnant gut. You see the cedar chest that belonged to like my great aunt. It's a fucking cool piece of
Oh,
furniture.
cool. Yeah, I
But it
was.
was all
wearing
I
that.
I like the natural wood of it, but it was kind of looking shitty over the years. So she had it completely redone in black because that's my sister's favorite color. It is fucking
Isn't
cool.
it everyone's favorite color?
It is. They did a good job, man. It's fucking cool. Yeah, but
Uh,
someone commented like, "I thought you were the only goth in the family." It's like, no,
no,
she's not really a
everyone's.
goth. She's not goth, but she likes black.
She's a rock and roller.
Yeah,
She,
she's a rocker.
yeah. AP's headed your way, D.
Oh, you're coming out to California, AP.
CA. He's coming to Cali.
Oh, wow, shit. Well, when you're here and it's not the fucking pandemic, we should meet for a fucking drink. Have a drink at the Rainbow. Do you,
AP in the rainbow.
AP, do you stop at like truck stops and arm wrestle other truckers?
What's the arm wrestling film with
Over the
Jean-Claude?
top.
Oh
It's
my god, it's
that's
so
pretty
good.
much the life of every trucker.
I love that film. I actually never saw Over the Top until last year. But
Do you know I was
very
I
good.
was watching Over the Top again. And do you know there's like 6 montage scenes?
Yeah,
It's
it was
like
great.
so many montages in that.
Good
Yeah, it's all about
morning.
the fucking
Good morning,
montage.
Telt Sir Worship. He's going walnuts specifically. Is he carrying walnuts?
Are you going to
Is
Walnut
he
Creek?
is he hauling walnuts?
Are you going to Walnut Creek?
Mm. Over the Top, yeah, it was a really good film. I can't believe I'd never seen it in my childhood. But we had Roadhouse. We just used to watch Roadhouse on repeat. I love Roadhouse. I
Dude, that
probably
was one of
watch
my
it like
favorite movies
I
as a
probably watch
kid.
like Roadhouse about 7 or 8 times a year, and I'm still not bored of it. I will never be bored of Roadhouse ever.
Fucking Roadhouse is an excellent movie.
It is. I watched it on New Year, and I could watch it again now. I nearly did watch it the other night. I was like, it's Ben Gazzara is so good. I love his like apartment as well. You know, it's like above the barn.
Oh, Swayze,
Yeah.
Dalton.
No, yes, Dalton. Swayze's apartment. And then he's lying out and he shags her, and then Gazzara's watching them shag from across the pond.
My favorite character is Sam Elliott. He's like, he's like the old seasoned
Oh my god,
bouncer.
he is. You know when
He's like the Obi-Wan of bouncers.
yeah, you know when he's gonna go and show him his scar. That's so fucking horny. Sam Elliott.
Did you come like 3 times?
Doesn't John Steele also have a total man crush on Sam Elliott as well? I think he does.
Does he?
I think
He
me
likes-
and Steele have talked about it online.
You guys probably have the same man crushes.
Well, we do. We definitely have the same taste in wrestlers.
I thought
Both
Steele's
love
man
Velvet.
crushes are like 80s male porn stars.
And I like a few 80s male porn stars too. Not as much as Steele though.
Steele knows more
Hello,
about
multi-twat
male-
man.
Steele knows more about 80s male porn stars than he does about like female porn stars.
Because there was only so many cocks for hire back then, so you'd recognize them. Nowadays, there's like so many cocks, you just can't keep up with them. Although there's a guy who I used to watch in a porn who's in an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I heard his voice, and I was like, "Oh shit, I've wanked to him." I was like, "He's here. He's gone legit."
All right.
Apparently,
what you
the
post-
best trucker movie is Breaker Breaker. Have you ever seen that?
No,
Chuck
it's
Norris, trucking, country music, and karate.
Shit, that sounds awesome. Breaker.
best-
I'm writing that down. I have to see if I can find him. Pirate Bay.
Oh, what did I just bloody watch?
What about Maximum Overdrive? Isn't that
Maximum Overdrive is fucking awesome.
those are trucks, right?
But he's like
Trucks?
an evil truck. What did I just Smokey and the Bandit?
Oh yeah, that's not really kind of truckers, I guess.
There's trucks in it.
Well, aren't they moving like a case of Coors Light or something Coors across the country? Isn't that what it is? Like a cab full of Coors.
Yeah, nobody wants
I
that.
think.
I would have like
I
tried to. I would've
Did
tried
you
to
post to
shove that into
Instagram
you.
or should I do that?
I've like tagged you in Instagram on my stories.
Oh, okay. Let me try to do that real quick. Hold on a second.
Yeah, I'm not really into The Omen. I think usually stuff with kids, I just get a bit bored of. But the first one's good. I don't think I've ever actually seen 2 and 3. I probably have like long time ago, not now. But they're considered classics. They're great. I like Exorcist. Exorcist 3 and Poltergeist 3 are amazing, especially Poltergeist 3. So good. I think Poltergeist 3 was. I'm going to get confused here. I think Poltergeist 3 was one of the reasons Jeffrey Dahmer started killing. It could have been the Exorcist 3. Is it? It's Exorcist 3. It's Exorcist 3. That and Return of the Jedi. Jeffrey Dahmer would just like watch on repeat.
All right.
They were smuggling beer in.
They were smuggling beer, and in the second one, the sequel, aren't they like smuggling an elephant to like the Republican National Convention?
I do not think
Texas?
I've ever seen.
It's awful. It's awful. The first one is actually not that bad.
The only thing I know about the third one is on Bill and Ted when they go up to heaven and Albert Einstein and Freud are talking, and he goes, "Smokey on the bandit tree. Smokey is the bandit."
Is there a third one? I didn't even know that.
It's a joke in Bill and Ted. So.
Oh, maybe there's a third one. Yeah, that car though, the Trans Am T-Tops 1970. That is my dream car, and I will one day have one of those.
With the T, a 1979 Trans Am with the T-bar.
I think it's a 78 or 79, but fucking great car, the Trans Am Firebird and everything. I just don't want to have one here because it would get ripped off. Any car, unless I had a garage or something. But even I wouldn't want to park it in the street because it'd get ripped off.
Or it'd be just your luck that it got totaled.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing too, like total here. But I think what more likely would happen, I mean, if they're stealing fucking Lady Gaga's French bulldogs. They're going to steal my fucking Smokey and the Bandit
We talk
Trans
about
Am.
that on the Patreon this week.
You know what's funny about that? If you guys heard about the Lady Gaga's fucking bulldogs, that actually the guy got shot and the bulldogs were stolen, like literally 6 blocks from where I live, like six streets away, like right over here in fucking West Hollywood. It's crazy.
It is very crazy. But
that's Meshuggah. It is. All right.
Like, just if you look, they're not your dogs. I'd be just like, take them.
I wouldn't take a fucking bullet.
I'm not taking a bullet for a French bulldog. Jesus.
And fucking Lady Gaga can buy like 30 of those motherfuckers.
Fucking buy. She's a multi-millionaire.
They are expensive though. I mean, there's like a $5,000 dog.
Why you'd ever spend that on a dog is beyond me.
I don't even know.
Buck Angel.
Buck Angel. Yeah, that's who we should have on the show. I've tried to interview that person. I don't know the pronoun to use for Buck Angel.
He's a him.
All right, it's a
man with a vagina. That's the way he always describes himself.
A mangina.
A mangina.
I believe that's what it's called. All right. You ready to go there, Kate Rambo?
Yes.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to Sick and Wrong, the world source for antisocial commentary. I'm one of your hosts, E. Simon.
Hello, comrades. I am Kate Rambo.
Hey, Kate Rambo. I'm glad you're able to make it this week. I was actually a little worried. I was a little concerned that you might be in Canvey for the weekend.
Canvey?
Have you ever been to Canvey? Like, how far do you live from Canvey?
I've never even heard of Canvey.
It's a I don't know if it's a British town or a British island, but Essex. I guess it's in Essex. Oh, we have listeners in Essex.
We do. Right? We have some very good listeners in Essex. That's bloody miles away from me, mate.
Okay, so
side of the country.
Well, police warn that a dogging event planned for this weekend in Canvey is not essential travel. So I was concerned that you might be traveling out there and breaking the law and not showing up on Sick and Wrong. I didn't want you to get arrested. Essex police have issued a statement saying a social gathering such as dogging is not essential travel. It would be against COVID lockdown rules. And so they issued a lockdown warning when they found out about this dogging event. Apparently there's a website called Let's Go Dogging, which shared with its 26,000 followers. It's a lot of doggers. Plans for this meetup in Canvey, Essex, which I'm not sure where that is. Do you have that site bookmarked? Do all English people have letsgodogging.com bookmarked?
I'm surprised that the doggers are so well organized, but you'd think they would have a totally different You would not have a letsgodogging.com, would you? It would be like secret dogging society.com.
Yeah, they seem rather like brazen about it.
They
Like not
haven't.
trying to not trying to hide what they're planning to
I always
do.
thought in my mind as well, dogging is quite a secretive event, and it'd be a case of Chinese whispers, kind of like a secret rave, where you'd be like, oh, I'm going to tell these cool people who I know who like to dog. I don't think you need to be so well organized. Like, it's maybe like a military.
26,000 followers. That's a lot of doggers.
A lot of these people are just laughing their heads off, though. Because, like, dogging, I've actually
Then
known everyone has had sex in a car, I'm assuming. Everyone has driven out to the woods and had the sex in the cars. It's a part of, like, growing up. But dogging to me just feels like it would be really cold.
Well, have you been out to the woods and had sex in like 6 different vehicles
Not
with
yet.
like 12 different strangers?
Tell you what, after lockdown ends, that's my first plan.
It's not clear where the event's being planned, but police have warned people not to attend, and they will be patrolling the island this weekend. Okay, Canby's an island, or yeah, I
No,
guess it's
no, I don't think it is an island. There's no
No?
islands in Essex. Essex is like landlocked, unless
I have
you
no
to, like,
idea.
row a little
I'm
boat
totally
to get over.
confused
I
by
don't think
this.
it's an island, mate.
I would never be able to find this dogging event.
You'd be there going, "Where's the island? I'm looking for an island."
Yeah, I would be looking for it. It'd be like a Lord of the Rings quest. Try to find it. Lord of the Cock Rings. Now that would be a good porn title. So the leader here of the Castle Point Council said that he wants this event stamped out. I'm hoping that it's the first time that we can stomp this before it starts. I don't want dogging to gain momentum in our area. Just think of the young children being out and about. And
Think of
this
the
is not something
children.
you'd want to witness. Did that ever happen to you when you were a child? Did you ever come across a dogging event going on and your innocence was lost?
Dogging wasn't invented until around like 1997, so no, it did not occur in my childhood.
What, people did dog in the 70s?
I can't remember which footballer it was, but this footballer used dogging as an excuse to get out of like an indecent exposure. He was shagging in his car and he said he was dogging. That's when dogging got invented. Dogging hadn't been around.
Okay, you
before
don't think you were conceived at a dogging event?
No, because my parents lived in London, mate. There's no
Oh,
place
so they
you
didn't
can
have
go
a
dogging
car.
in London. No,
They didn't have a car.
unless they like shagged on the fucking underground.
So Essex police have urged anyone considering attending the social gathering in Canby to reconsider. Please, we urge you to reconsider your weekend plans. No dogging for you. Can you just already see all these disappointed doggers? Like, bloody hell, my weekend is tits up now.
Oh, bloody hell, mate. I'd cleaned out the motor and everything.
Police are going to try to engage with people and make sure they do the right thing. Apparently, dogging is the wrong thing to do.
It sounds like it is the wrong
It
thing,
is.
even when it's very consensual. But I agree that dogging is the wrong thing because it's cold. Like, you don't have to be cold while you're having sex. You
I
know?
just think I just wouldn't want the fluids all over my car.
And that you would have to go and instantly wash your car, wouldn't you?
Yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of fluids being transferred.
There is a lot of
Your
fluid.
seats would be all sticky. Your
Too
kids got to
sticky.
ride in the back seat the next day. It's disgusting.
I thought that you were going to say something a bit different about the kids.
Of course you did, you nonce. So as much as I'd like to spend an hour and a half talking about dogging and the
Same.
ethics behind dogging, that's
Mm.
not the topic of the show this week, actually. So this past Monday, a literary figure, Lawrence Ferlinghetti, who is a beat poet, a publisher, and the founder of San Francisco City Lights Bookstore, died at the age of 101.
Yeah, great
101
age.
years old. That guy.
A
I
great
know.
age for a
What a
great
full
man.
life this guy lived.
Oh,
City
fantastic.
Lights Bookstore, people, I mean, it's probably one of the most famous bookstores in the country. It's actually, as a matter of fact, Ferlinghetti was the first person. Yeah, there's City Lights. Ferlinghetti. So it's right on the corner of Columbus, where it hits Broadway and Kearny, kind of border of Chinatown and North Beach in San Francisco. But Ferlinghetti was the first person to actually publish paperbacks. I don't know if you knew that. He sort
I
of,
didn't.
yeah, they say he democratized American literature by creating the
Wow.
country's first all paperback bookstore.
Fantastic.
It's pretty revolutionary in 1953. Ferlinghetti, Lawrence Ferlinghetti died this past Monday from lung disease, but 101 years old. It's a long time to live.
Yeah.
But he was one of the last surviving members of the Beat Generation. And yeah, he played a crucial role in expanding the literary movement, definitely through this bookstore. He published Howl, Ginsberg's iconic book of poems. And he was a very active, he was a social activist. He he hosted a lot of different events. There he is, right in front of City Lights bookstore. He jump started a movement to make literature more accessible. He considered poetry like a weapon of the insurgency. So he like kind of defined the insurgent poet. So City Lights is something that he co-founded with another guy named Peter D. Martin in San Francisco's North Beach neighborhood in 1953. In 1955, Ferlinghetti actually bought him out and owned the business himself. And he launched the hugely influential Pocket Poets series, where he went on to publish works by some of the post-war period's most important literary figures, including William Burroughs, Jack Kerouac, and Allen Ginsberg.
Fantastic.
In 1956, he published the first edition of Ginsberg's Howl, infamous book. He was later actually sued for obscenity. San Francisco authorities seized his copies of Ginsberg's Howl and Other Poems. And Ferlinghetti was arrested and tried on obscenity charges due to the book's many references to sex and drugs. The case garnered like nationwide attention and provoked a huge debate over censorship. So if you think about it, he's another First Amendment warrior, much like Larry Flint.
He is. He's
yeah,
fantastic.
we're highlighting all these icons here. Ferlinghetti was eventually cleared, and the judge ruled that the book had redeeming social importance. And that was a decision that would change the U.S. court's approach to creative free speech. So if you think about it, there are many books many songs that probably never could have been published or recorded had it not been for this guy.
I was just Charles Bukowski was a massive part of this as well. He was like one of the first people who had the balls to publish Bukowski.
Yeah, I mean he published Dogs from Hell. He published a lot of Bukowski books.
He did.
So City Lights was actually kind of a meeting place for San Francisco's literati. And Ferlinghetti he published a pretty famous book of poems called The Coney Island of the Mind.
I have
from
that.
1958. Yeah, so it's a great book. There's some very brilliant poems in there. It was a big commercial success for him. He also had several other books. I Am Waiting, an autobiography, and he authored more than 30 collections of poetry throughout his life. Still publishing books as up to 10 years ago, and the guy's like 90 years old.
Brilliant.
Kind of amazing. I know people like that make me feel guilty.
I just have such admiration for him. Well, I mean, yeah, it's the same kind of deal, though. That's his life. That's his world. It's totally what he believes in. I've got nothing but admiration for this man, especially doing something where being a writer is hard enough, but being a poet is on another level. You're never going to make any money from poetry, but this guy has made poetry not only be relevant, but it's also keeping it constantly in the popular culture. And so much admiration for Lawrence.
Well, and not to mention, he was so influential to a lot of aspiring writers, like coaching them and helping them get published and taking risks, like Bukowski. Like no one's gonna. Who else was gonna publish Bukowski at that time? And Allen Ginsberg's Howl. Howl in 1953.
No one had the balls, but Lawrence.
No, I mean, you're gonna try it for obscenity, and he's just like, fuck you. You're not gonna be able to censor me. This is a cool picture of Ferlinghetti here posed on the doorpost here of City Lights. You can see you can see Bob Dylan and Allen Ginsberg in that picture in the background. You also see Love Is a Dog from Hell. City Lights doesn't really look like that anymore.
I was going to ask.
Yeah, they updated it, they modernized it, but that place always kind of holds a special place in my heart because when I was a strip club DJ and over in North Beach,
yeah.
If you stand at City Lights and you look diagonally across the street, you see the Roaring 20s strip club. So like right over there on Broadway, or that whole like strip of adult entertainment facilities. And so you'll see like a whole line of strip clubs, and then right across the street is like the focal point of American's literary movement. And so I just thought it was a weird dichotomy to be like, wow, I'm like sitting in the, in front of just sleaze and strippers and porn. And I go across the street and now I'm like reading a copy of Howl. But so anyway, during my lunch, because I would just kind of walk around for like 40 minutes, I'd usually go over to City Lights and just kind of, flip through books. I mean, they had a lot of other authors too, but I mean, they had like a whole section with the B poets. So you could just like sit there and flip through books, and always felt intelligent when I did that, you know.
They all go hand in hand, though. All the Beat Boys were very salacious. Charles Bukowski's salacious. I definitely
Oh
think they
yeah.
would have liked that their bookshop, their focal point was near
I
such
think they would have
trees.
enjoyed stopping
Oh
over to the,
yeah.
the blue light special at the Roaring Twenties. At the time, I think probably in the 50s and 60s, the Hungry Eye, which later became a strip club, that was my favorite strip club to work at the block mainly because it served alcohol. But it was like a topless joint. But anyway, that place was a comedy club. And that's where Lenny Bruce performed. Steve Martin performed
Oh,
there. Yeah, like all these famous comedians, and that was kind of like right also across the street from City
I've read
Lights.
about that place. I didn't realize it was so close.
Yeah, it was, and then it became a strip club. But not only was Ferlinghetti like a published poet, writing more than 30 collections of poetry. He led a very full life. He's a World War II Navy man. Like he, piloted a sub in World War II. He was a fidelista. He like supported Castro, a Sandinista, a Zapatista, an anti-war activist, and an environmentalist. I mean, this guy, like for 100 years, 101 years, he lived a very full life.
He's fighting the good fight, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he traveled around the world, giving poetry readings, taking part in festivals, like in political conferences in Chile, Cuba, Germany, the USSR, Nicaragua, Spain. Lived in Mexico and Italy and France. He actually, this is kind of funny too. He advocated for the impeachment of Dwight Eisenhower, along with most of the succeeding presidents. He wanted them all impeached because of their initiations of illegal and immoral wars.
I like this
He's an
guy.
anti-war activist. Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
you like him.
he's great. And on his 100th birthday, San Francisco made March 24th his birthday, Lawrence Ferlinghetti Day, just to honor him. But yeah, that's the thing. He gave people's poetry. Gave people's poetry an intersection with politics. He called it poetry as insurgent art, is what he came to make it be. And yeah, and because of him, I mean, we had the Beat Generation. I mean, he published the works of these influential authors to our society, which is pretty amazing. I was wondering what happened to City Lights during the pandemic. But apparently, this past year has been pretty rough on it.
Oh, I
But
bet.
they ended up doing a GoFundMe and raised about $300,000 to keep the business afloat.
Who owns it now? Who runs it now?
There's a CEO and publisher, Elaine Katzenberger, I guess. I don't know if she owns it or if she runs it. Maybe his family still owns it, but she's the
Yeah.
CEO of City Lights. So I'm not sure. It's definitely not a public company. But
Well,
they
that's
plan to
good.
keep it open and build on his vision and honor his memory by sustaining City Lights
I should
as a
hope so.
center for intellectual inquiry. It's a pretty amazing
Wonderful.
bookstore. If you go to San Francisco, there's certain sites you should check out, like Alcatraz and Coit Tower and things like that. But City Lights, North Beach is definitely an area you'd want to check out. So an interesting thing about the Beat Poets is, so after hearing about Lawrence Ferlinghetti's death, Kate was inspired to talk about a couple murders that occurred during the whole Beat generation that I think a lot of people maybe like tangentially heard about, but don't really know the details of. So we're going to get into that right now and talk about, first of all, a murder involving Lucian Carr, who's another like kind of an obscure member. I mean, he
Of
distanced himself from
course.
the movement because of this
Because
particular
of what
murder.
happens.
And then
Yeah.
we're also going to talk about a famous murder involving William Burroughs. So let's get into Lucian Carr and what happened back in, what is that, 1954?
Around then, so like
Yeah.
Lucian Carr, there would probably have never have been the Beat Generation literature movement without Lucian Carr. That's how influential he was. He's the main muse. He was like the starting fuse for the whole movement. And his murder is kind of crazy how he murders someone. So,
Yeah, it's a
mm,
Lucian Carr. That's the thing. I don't know if there would be a Beat generation without him.
there definitely
Like,
wouldn't.
yeah,
I'll go
because
into like how influential he was to these many mans
I
that
mean,
were
he sort
drawn
of
to
united
Lucian's
these.
energy.
He united all these huge authors like Ginsberg, Kerouac, Burroughs. He brought them all together. And this is even before Neil Cassady arrived on the scene. But yeah, it's a tragic death that he was involved in. That
Yeah,
kind of
so
made him turn him into, the guy who initiated the scene, turned him into kind of an obscure figure. So let me get a picture. I can share a picture here of Lucian.
you say
Lucian
obscure,
Carr.
but I mean, he ends up probably being the most famous of all the writers because he's the one
Yeah.
that jobs the longest.
So here you go. Here's a young William Burroughs, a young Allen Ginsberg, and sitting down in the forefront is a young Lucian Carr.
So, Lucian Carr was born to a socially prominent St. Louis family on March the 1st, 1925. And around the age of 11 or 12, he joined the Boy Scouts. One of his troop leaders is a man who was called David Camera. Camera, you get the gist.
Yeah.
David was around 25 at the time. So David was actually a childhood friend of William S. Burroughs because William S. Burroughs is from St. Louis. They were school chums. They traveled to Paris together. They go to Mexico. Um,
Did
Burroughs
he?
said, sorry.
So wait, were they from the same town, William Burroughs and Kamer?
Yeah, and Lucian Carr, they were all from St. Louis.
Oh, okay, they're all from St. Louis, huh?
So Burroughs had described David. He said he was always very funny, the veritable life of the party, and completely without any middle class morality. Because you're going to hear about how David had literally no morals, because David became infatuated with Lucian Carr, this 11-year-old boy. And to say he was infatuated is like an understatement, because for the next decade, Lucian would like leave St. Louis. He would begin his college, university education. David stalked, groomed, and obsessed over Lucian Carr. Thought about him every day. He would follow him to and from school. He would send him daily letters, gifts, money. He would buy him clothes. He would like buy him any goods. He was
Super
trying to like
creepy.
woo him. Yeah, he was grooming
So
Lucian.
there aren't too many pictures of David Kamer, but here's one. I mean, this is like must be his like high school picture or something, senior picture, college picture. But he was so Burroughs was like what, like 11 years older than Lucian?
Yeah, and so
And,
he's the
s-
same
and
age as Kamera. They're both 25-ish, and Lucian Carr at this point is 11.
yeah, he was like in the Boy Scouts. And so Kamer was like a scout leader or something, and then just
He
became
was
obsessed with this boy, a boy.
a boy. So
Yeah.
Lucian had said that he hounded him constantly for sex, and there is a bit of debate. There is debate out there if they ever have sex, if they ever did actually have sex. All like Alan and William and Jack all deny that they did have sex, but there's been a few people come out of the woodworks. But there is like
Yeah.
nothing that is not up for debate is that Lucian frequently moved schools. He would
It's a
move
creepy
schools
nonce.
2 to 3 times a year to escape this creepy nonce. And because David, he was a trained teacher, he was a trained English and PE teacher. So he could go and work in these schools that Lucian was in.
Yeah, he would just follow this kid around the country. So but initially, though, so Lucian's parents were separated when Lucian was like 12.
A
He
young
was
boy,
young.
yeah.
He was a young boy. So I think the mother welcomed David Kamer's presence in Lucian's life because he had like a paternal figure to look
begin
up
with.
to. But I think her mother or his mother soon realized that there was definitely something more going on here.
here.
However, she still let him go to Mexico with the man. So Lucian would have been like what, 12?
I think this
13?
is before they kind of realized, because like obviously back then the attitudes towards homosexuality was so different. It was so kept secret, wasn't it? So
I mean,
they didn't even know what grooming was back then.
yeah,
So
I guess you wouldn't know
it would
what
have been
was going
easy for
on.
David to worm his way in and appear as an innocuous boy Scout leader.
But
when
look how creepy
really,
this picture is. I mean, maybe we're more, perceptive to this now,
of course, I
but
think we are.
but look at this. This guy over here, David Kamer, standing on the left of this marlin fish that they must have caught. And I mean, he's an adult. He's like a 25-year-old man. And then if you look on the far right, there's Lucian Carr, who is a boy, clearly a boy.
Clearly.
I think it's exceedingly creepy that this guy, but once again, you're right. It's 1950s. People are pretty naive. People are like, would give him I'm sure his mom gave him the benefit of the doubt. It's like, oh, he gets is an innocuous relationship with a guy who's playing a paternal role in his life, and he needs that.
So at
You
one
know.
point, Lucian went to the University of Chicago. This was when he was getting his graduate degree. And later on, he claimed it to be a work of art. But this is like, I think, when the warning bells started setting off for his mother, because he stuck his head in a gas oven. He was trying to do a Sylvia Plath, basically.
Carr was trying to
And
off himself.
He was trying to off himself. He was trying to commit suicide, although he downplayed it later on. And he got caught, and it was, came out as a cry for help. But now his mother kind of like, she could see that something was going on here. And she was convinced that the stress was from this like stalking dandy. And he had caused this breakdown. By this point, she had also moved from St. Louis, and she was living in New York. So she said to Lucian, you're going to move to New York. You're going to come and live with me, or live on the same street as me. And you're going to go to Columbia University.
So
and that's exactly what he did.
You're going to escape from Kamer. It's interesting too. Lucian Carr's hospital discharge had the signature of David Kamer as his guardian.
Did it? Oh
yeah,
my
and
word.
so, but I think at this point, the mother's like, yeah, this is getting weird, and I need to extract him from the situation, separate him from this weird guy.
So obviously, Lucian's going to move back to New York. He's going to begin Columbia University. And it was around this time that William S. Burroughs, also moved to New York. And guess what? Surprise, surprise. Who else is going to move to New York too? David.
Seems like it was planned. Yeah.
But Lucian was really happy at Columbia University. He joined the campus literary and debate society, and he was soon mixing with a nervously brilliant Jewish poet by the name of Allen Ginsberg. And Lucian had started a relationship with a girl called Celine, and Celine introduced another nice piece of ankle by the name of Edie Parker. And Edie Parker, her boyfriend, was a French-Canadian quarterback by the name of Jack Kerouac. So like, this is the stage all set now. The players are all here. And like, this is going to be leading up to the gruesome historical moment that would. So here's a
picture. Yeah, here's a picture of Jack Kerouac on the left. Doesn't it kind of look like he has a boner in this picture?
I think there's been talk that Jack Kerouac was very well hung.
Is that way he had a big schlong?
Like, from what I've read, yeah, he was a well hung young man. There's definitely Allen Ginsberg, because the two would certainly play hide the salami in my mouth together. He's talked about like what a fine piece of meat he had in between his legs.
Here's the two of them. Here's Lucian Carr on the right and
gorgeous
Jack Kerouac.
Boys.
He looks so all American, doesn't he?
Yeah, but he's French Canadian.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was definitely the epitome of that kind of strong figure that the others didn't have. So they got introduced to Burroughs. They were this terrible trio in a way, but Lucian was the core troublemaker and prankster. They would haunt the jazz bars and taverns of Chelsea and Greenwich Village. And their whole aim was they wanted to shock the middle class values. They wanted to devote their lives to art, to discover the undiscovered, total rebels. Yeah. And for 10 months, David was on the outskirts of this group. He would certainly, he would be at their parties. He'd be hearing about everything they're doing because, Ginsberg and Kerouac are having friendly blowjobs. So is Burroughs. He's getting in on that action. Their homo and bisexuality was like such a badly kept secret, but he was still quite closeted. I'm certain that he would have been jealous about how close all four of them were, because if they were not in each other's thoughts, they were definitely in each other's pockets because they lived together.
What's interesting about this too, though, is Kamer was good friends with Burroughs, like childhood friends. They knew each other for a long time, but yes. Burroughs was pretty enmeshed within this beat group. They weren't called. I think they called themselves like the Libertine
At this
Circle,
point,
the
they were,
Libertine
yeah.
Circle. They weren't quite the Beat Generation yet, but Kamer was definitely not included in this.
He was
I mean,
not.
he was kind of an outcast. And so, what's interesting too during this time is these guys, even though they were homosexual, they kind of had these like beard relationships. So like Kerouac, I don't think was a full homosexual. I mean, he might have dabbled in homosexuality from time to time.
There is debate on that, because I do think that one of the reasons that Kerouac died young is because he was very closeted about his homosexuality.
But he was involved with Edie Parker at the time, who was an art
He
student
was.
from Michigan. And Lucian Carr kind of met Edie. And then there's Joan Vollmer, who eventually became Burroughs' common law wife. Burroughs also, openly homosexual. So it's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a different time. I mean, this is like
Oh,
1950s.
completely. Yeah, I mean,
I-
like homosexuality was like illegal in Britain until the 1960s. That's the
Yeah.
attitude towards it of the time.
So I mean, I think that's why you had beards. But I read an interesting thing, an interesting quote here. When Carr finally met Kerouac, because Kerouac was Edie's boyfriend, and Carr was friends with Edie because he met her in art class. He said he was greeted by a moody man's man slouched in a chair, demanding to be fed. Jack had summed up Lucian at first glance, thinking him a mischievous little prick when he first met him.
Yeah, I think they're both right about each other. Wonderful, I love it. So yeah, we were talking about Burroughs, William S. Burroughs and David. They were mates. They had moved over. They lived close by, next to each other. But William S. Burroughs' eyes were beginning to be opened to like the absolute obsessiveness of Camera on Lucian.
Camera at this time.
Because he burst in, and William S. Burroughs is a lifelong lover of pussycats. Not pussycats. Right? He had cats his whole life, and he would have scores of cats too. And he burst in on David, and David was trying to hang Kerouac's cat.
Wait, he was trying to why Kerouac's cat?
Because Kerouac is clearly taking all of Lucian's attention.
So he was this is like some Fatal Attraction type shit.
Oh yeah, this is some bunny boiling, but with a kitty instead.
I don't think they had the term stalker back then, but that's exactly what's happening here.
Oh, completely.
You had an obsessive stalker.
I think his psyche was like so destroyed and warped by this point, because he couldn't teach. He couldn't like hold down a proper job. He was working as a janitor in his housing block just to keep his rent paid. And he would like hawk his goods to buy food and booze for like to take to their parties. This
was he a drug addict or alcoholic, Cameron?
No, not compared to like the others. Like
the
others,
yeah,
were all into like benzodrine and booze, but he was quite like laid back off that. He wasn't in that lifestyle.
Well, but he must have been jealous. I mean, first of all, he probably felt bolder.
Completely.
He was probably jealous that Burroughs was accepted and he wasn't. But then also, I mean, they, the Libertine Circle, their crew, would go hit up all these different like bars and cafeterias and coffee shops and things like that, hanging out with girls, and they never invited Kamerer. And
they did have
he would
parties
tag
together.
along. Well, he would tag along.
Yeah, but he was never invited.
He was never invited. And then also I read that Lucian had a bit of a mean streak.
I imagine he did.
When it came to Kamerer. Like he
well, of course.
Yeah. So I guess when Kamerer was around, when they were hanging out, especially when Lucian was hanging out with Celine, he would give them disapproving looks, both of them, especially to Celine, because he was obviously extremely jealous. And at this point, he was becoming very unhinged. But Lucian would toy with Kamerer, and he thought it was funny. So he would like alternate invitations with snubs, and then he would create scenarios to humiliate Kamerer in public. Right. So I was reading, he would let him know where his friends would be on a given night. And when Kamerer appeared, as Lucian knew he would, because he always would, followed him everywhere, he was excluded from the group, forced to sit alone at another table, watching him embrace Celine in front of him or engage Kerouac in male bonding. So, I mean, he knew this guy was freaking out about this. He knew he was becoming unhinged, and he was fucking with him.
On.
Well, he was fucking with him.
This guy's been stalking you for 10 years. You're gonna rebel against him in attitude in any kind of way you can. And when he would be feeling safe and secure around his friends, so you could do that type of
Yeah,
stuff.
I think he'd feel confident around his friends to be like, I'm going to inflict some kind of pain, humiliation on this guy because he hates him, obviously. And I think Kamer was so obsessive and so much in love with him that Lucian began to despise him. And this happened his whole life. His whole life he knew this guy,
I
you
know.
know. And so I read here, it's kind of a funny anecdote. So they were dining at some Italian restaurant in Little Italy, and Lucian dared Kamer to eat a tablespoon of hot paprika, saying that if John Keats could do it, why can't you? And so
Oh yeah,
Kamer was so
Keats the
desperate.
badass. Keats the
He was
badass
so
who died at 21. Yeah.
but he was so desperate to please Lucian and like impress all the friends. He ate the paprika, and I guess he paid for it afterwards.
Well, of course he would. Well, he's going to pay for something afterwards. So this is around June of 1944. Kerouac, he'd been a merchant sailor for a few years earlier, and he was convincing Lucian that they should ship out and see the world and, get some writing experience. Kamera found out about this, and it sent him on to another level of anxiety. And he now started breaking into Lucian's apartment, and all he would do was watch Lucian sleep.
Wow, at night. He'd
At
break into
night,
his
he
apartment
broke
and
in
watch him
several
sleep.
times and he did this, but one time he got caught. They all knew about this too. So a few
Wow.
months later, this is in August, they got kicked. Lucian and Kerouac, naturally, they got kicked off a ship that had been bound for Paris. So they began drinking early in their regular Broadway haunt, which was called the West End Bar. This is where they all hung out.
I wonder if
Jack,
that place is where that place is.
you
It's
know
probably
what?
not around
I
anymore.
knew I should have Googled it. I was like, I'm going to
It's
Google
probably
it.
not around anymore.
So Jack left to go home to Edie, and David Kamera, he found Lucian alone and pretty pissed. He's pretty pissed means drunk for the audience,
Yeah.
the American audience. And he was despondent. And it was about 2, 3 a.m. So from here, we only have the confession that Lucian gave to the police to go by because nobody ever saw David alive again. This was it. So the two went to Riverside Park to drink wine by the river.
Now that's a little weird. These two men, 2 a.m., one extremely inebriated, the other one who's just obsessed with him, go to a park
to drink wine together. But like you were saying before, David was a constant presence in Lucian's life. He was always there at parties at his house. It wasn't unusual for them. That's why there was these kind of rumors that maybe Lucian had sex with David, and that's why David was so enticed.
I'm thinking there probably was. I bet you what happened. He's groomed for so long. He was young. He probably maybe did have some kind of like sexual incident with him or whatever, and probably was just like felt guilty about it, tried to move away from the guy, have a relationship with a woman, like a heterosexual relationship. And but that incident, that sexual activity that he had with Kamar probably just at that point made him just even more deeply in love. Yeah.
Maybe, but I mean, David is certainly an
feeded the obsession. Man. Oh yeah, no, I mean, he's like an unhinged pedophile.
Yeah, he's a nonce, mate. He's a bloody nonce.
He's a nonce.
So they're in, it's 3 a.m. in the morning. They're in Riverside Park, and David turned to Lucian, and he threatened to kill Celine, to kill his girlfriend. He started repeating how much he was in love with Lucian, how he couldn't live without him, how Lucian couldn't live without him, and how he would kill Lucian and then himself if Lucian didn't have sex with him. And it was during all this pent-up years of anger and hatred towards David. He didn't want these advances were unwanted, and he finally snapped. So they started struggling on the riverbanks. There was a bit of a wrestling match going on, and Lucian managed to pull out his trusty Boy Scout pocket knife that he'd had since he was 11, and he stabbed his attacker and stalker twice in the heart. And that was it.
Wow. With a Swiss Army knife, just
with his pocket knife. So, in the contest between a pecker and a knife, the knife usually wins. And David is dead. That was it. So Carr, in a bid to hide the body, he tied the dead pederast's hands and feet with his own shoelaces. He wrapped his arms like tight around his body with his own belt. He found some rocks. He weighted the body down. He took his cigarettes and his glasses, which were both covered in blood, and he rolled the dead homo's body into the murky waters of the Hudson River.
Now that is kind of interesting. This drunk guy who, has like a passionate like impulse murder still had like the forethought to be like, I need to dispose of the corpse and
I
do it
think
in
you
such
can
a-
never judge somebody when shock and adrenaline takes over, because everyone is going to act different. And I imagine that you've killed someone. Nothing's going to sober you up faster.
Yeah, man. You'd think the first instinct would be like, I'm gonna get the fuck out of here and just like leave the body and run. But instead, he's like, no, I'm gonna tie his hands and feet with shoelaces. I'm gonna weigh the body down with
Yes.
stones. I'm gonna roll him into the Hudson River. It seems a bit more premeditated to me.
Maybe I don't see it that way. I see like we all do crazy things in shock when we've had like a very moment when your adrenaline is really pouring. And like I've never been in this situation. You've never
Yeah,
been in this
neither have I.
situation. So I'm not going to say that it seems premeditated, because I genuinely don't think it was. Because after this, so he had these bloodstained cigarettes. His first place that he went to was Burroughs' apartment because he looked up to Bill. Bill flushed these bloodstained cigarettes down the toilet.
He smoked them first though.
He did. He smoked the cigarettes because he's a junkie.
Why not?
Yeah. But he did advise Lucian. He was like, "You're gonna have to lawyer up. You're gonna go to jail." He said that Lucian appeared to be in a daze, and so like Lucian went next to the apartment of Edie Parker, where Kerouac was living.
One quick aside here. So Burroughs advised him to lawyer up. So he was like, you should have your mom get you a lawyer. But he also said you should use the honor slaying as your defense,
Okay.
which is self-defense against an act of homosexual aggression. So it's
that
an honor
existed
slaying.
back then. That was
Yeah.
That was wow. Well, that just shows you how different attitudes
Oh,
were.
definitely. I mean, it was in 1950s, and so or 1940s, and it was 1944. So I mean, it's a completely different attitude towards it. But I think Burroughs was just like, at this point, this is what you have to do. Which
He's a genius for being
yeah,
up at 5
I was
a.m. and
about to
thinking
say
of that.
it's
I would just been like,
diabolical, but
Lucian,
yeah.
you're fucked, mate. You're going to jail.
So yeah, the next thing he goes to Edie Parker's apartment, and Jack lived with Edie at this time, right?
Jack lived with Edie, but Edie was also living with a woman called Joan Vollmer, who we were talking about. Joan wouldn't let Lucian stay because he had his David's like broken, bloodied glasses, and he was telling them a story, and Joan got freaked out. She was like, "You cannot stay here." So Kerouac went off with Lucian. They spent the day getting sauced. They hid the glasses, and they were just that. But eventually Carr knew there was
Dumping the
nowhere to
evidence.
turn, and he went to the police that night. The police didn't believe him at first because he's this young, kind of waifish college boy, like kind of clean cutish coming in. They just did not believe his story. And then the Coast Guard, of course, fished up the dead nonce from his watery grave. They had no choice to believe him.
So Lucian, I was reading about this and I was like, why would he go to the police? Like, why not just, not even address what happened? But then again, I think obviously they probably would have tied it to him because, he was part of their circle.
Last
But
scene with him as well.
Yeah, last scene at the bar, so he would have known that. So Lucian definitely felt remorse. And that's when he went to Kerouac's apartment or Edie Parker's apartment, he was freaking out because he thought he was going to get convicted and get the chair. And so he woke up Kerouac and he was just like, I disposed of the old man tonight. And Kerouac's first words were, why'd you go and do that?
That's very typical Jack, isn't it? What'd you do that for?
Oh, why'd you go do that?
Yeah, why? Yeah.
But yeah, so he, after going out drinking, see the movies and going to the bars and stuff like that, he freaked out and decided to turn himself into the police.
So during this, Kerouac and Burroughs, they were arrested as material witnesses. Burroughs is sitting on a fortune. He's bailed out instantly. It took a bit longer for Kerouac because, he's working class. He's got no family money. But Edie eventually ponied up the cash for him. Edie at the time said of this murder, all of our lives had changed drastically, all because of Dave, who Lucian had tried to avoid just as we all did.
Yeah. Kerouac's father refused to post the $100 bond to bail out his son.
Kerouac's father is as nasty as how Jack Kerouac ended in his final days. Kerouac is not from good stock.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put it like that. So Lucian appeared in court on August 24th, 1944, and he was indicted for second-degree murder. He claimed self-defense and pleaded guilty to second-degree manslaughter, and his plea was accepted. The assistant district attorney believed that Carr, he had not intended to kill Kammerer, a homosexual, but that Kammerer, for more than 5 years, had persisted in making advances to Carr, which always were repulsed. Kammerer's persistence had made young Carr emotionally unstable. And this is what I like. In her testimony, Mrs. Carr, so this is Lucian's mother, described Kammerer as a veritable Iago who had corrupted her son purely for the love of evil. Isn't that a great quote? Saying that in court about your son.
Here's a clip or a picture here of the actual news article. You can see young Lucian Carr there. The
So
honor slayer faces trial in second degree.
Ooh, look at that advert for Pedro's imported rum. I would like some of that. Some of that right now. So he ended up serving 2 years in the Elmira Reformatory. Kerouac and Burroughs collaborated on a brilliant book. I highly suggest anyone reads this. You'll read it in an afternoon, on the events called And the Hippos Were Boiled in Their Tanks. This went unreleased in their lifetimes. And Kerouac also based his book, The Town and the City, a very good Kerouac book, on this murder.
So that book was about the murder of David Kammerer?
It's told from Kerouac's side and Burroughs' side, and then they come together for certain portions of the book.
You know, I've never read that one. I should check that out. What's interesting about this, though, so the killing of Kammerer was influential to the beginning of the Beat movement.
Of course.
Yes. So I read that there were like 3 primary forces that influenced the Beat movement. You know, the birth, which was Lucian Carr and his whole new vision concept.
Yes.
I mean, he introduced those guys to like all the famous poets at the time, and he laid the foundation of like voice, method, and influence. And the next part was the killing of Kammerer, which created the impetus to go by getting the beat poets to kind of, because Kammerer was gone, Lucian Carr was gone for 2 years. So now it's like the beat poets were kind of, because Lucian Carr was
lost for a while. I think
he was kind of like their teacher. I mean, he was such an influential figure in their life. I think after this point, they were like, well, now we're kind of on our own. And then the third part was the arrival of Neal Cassady, who is another famous
character
at that time.
Yeah, well, I mean, it did definitely fracture them because Lucian was the core of the group. And I mean, Ginsberg, his first editions of Howl were dedicated to Lucian. Yeah. But when Lucian came out of like, he definitely grew up fast in the reformatory. He told Ginsberg, take the dedication out for me. I kind of want to be forgotten. And he got married. And this is when he became probably the most successful writer out of all of them, because he became the night news editor of the United Press, and he kept that job for 48 years.
And this show, this is a great picture of him. It's my favorite picture of Lucian Carr here.
I like this one too.
But this is when he's like a news guy. He's like a newsman here. But look at this picture of him with like the hair and the mustache. And so, when he
a young whippersnapper.
So after the prison term, he went to go work for UPI, where he was initially hired as a copy boy, but then he eventually became a night news editor and then went on to head the general news desk until he retired in 1993. And in a letter that Ginsberg wrote to Carr, he said, Bill sends his love and says you should shave your mustache. It's awful. And having a mustache like that to keep oneself from being pretty is like knocking out a couple of teeth or sticking in a nose plug or some other barbarous self-mutilation. In fact, it's worse. It's a crime of self-desecration to try to make yourself ugly. Please a lot of jerks down at the UPI and be one of the boys. It's terrible. Jack and I agree on account of nobody's really watching anyway.
Oh, I love it. I love this great letter. He was very much a man of letters, was Ginsberg.
But it's almost like an act of defiance because Carr was distancing himself from the beat poets. He stopped his ambition of being like a literary writer. Like he was trying to write a novel at that time and a book of poems. He stopped doing that. Became a newspaper editor and a news writer. And he also distanced himself from the beats in public. I mean, he would still, exchange
Oh, he
letters
would
and things like
still
that.
be friends with them, but he never talked about the crime publicly ever.
No, and he asked for his name to be removed from Howl. He asked
Yes.
Kerouac to change the title of his poem from Old Lucian Midnight to Old Angel Midnight
Hmm.
because he didn't want to be associated. And so he kind of willingly faded into the background as like as a second string character in Kerouac's novels, cloaked by pseudonyms.
So
You know,
yeah, I mean, because we'll never actually know what prompted him that night to kill, like, to kill David. You could say it was like a repulsion against maybe his own homosexual desires or against Dave's sexual desires. Like
years of abuse.
years of
You know,
abuse. I mean, yeah, none of these beat boys were like strangers to playing hide the salami. So you just don't know. I've got a good quote here where it says, like the rest of the university world, we are completely mystified at what happened. So this is from the Columbia University student newspaper. Obviously, this is big news for them. There is a complexity to the background of the case that will defy ordinary police and legal investigations. The search for a motive will dig deep into the more hidden areas of the intellectual world.
it's interesting on so the obituary upon Carr's death, so this would have been when he died.
He died 2005 and he
2005.
had bone cancer. He died at the age of 79.
They noted on the killing by Carr of Kamer, this is in The Guardian, central to Carr's defense was that he was not gay and that Kamer was an obsessive stalker, threatened sexual violence. And so it was an honor killing. So once the story of a predatory homosexual was presented in court, Carr became a victim and the murder was framed as an honor killing. And there was no one in court to question the story or offer any kind of different version of the relationship. Much of the story, however, is doubtful. And perhaps now with Carr's death, it may be possible to disentangle the strands of insinuation, legal spin, and lies. There's no independent proof. This is from The Guardian that Kamer was a predatory stalker. There's only Carr's words for the pursuit from St. Louis to New York. And there's persuasive evidence that Kamer himself was not gay. Carr enjoyed his ability to manipulate the older man and got him to write essays for his classes at New York's Columbia University. A friend remembers Kamer slamming the door of his apartment in Carr's face and telling him to get lost. So this is like evidence that came out later. And there's also evidence to suggest that Carr had been a troubled and unstable young man who did try to commit suicide at one point. And while he told a psychiatrist that his suicide was a performance and it was a work of art. In New York, Carr gave Ginsberg, who had been raised respectably in New Jersey, where his father was a teacher, the new language of eroticism and danger. And so Ginsberg wrote in his journal the key terms of the Carr language was fruit, phallus, clitoris, feces, fetus, womb, and Rimbaud. So it's interesting there's a different take on it. And there's been
I kind of think
people-
that's a bit all bullshit, to be honest, though, because William S. Burroughs and Jack Kerouac, who were there and who writing and the hippo was boiled in their tanks, they talk about the
and Celine
predatory-
was
Yeah, they all
Celine
talk about
experienced
how
as well.
Dave had hounded him for 10 years. You don't move. And it wasn't just like, oh, he'd moved from St. Louis to New York. He moved to St. Louis, to Chicago, and he lived in Texas as well. And David followed him all around that. And you can see why he would act out. And I think him being literary and, calling people fruits or whatever, that's just like when you're 20. That's like your attitude, is it?
Well, I think it's part of being rebellious and
Of
going
course.
against the status quo. But I think part of it too is like this sort of revisionist history. It's like I think they're looking back on this like incredibly homophobic defense that he used in
Time.
court, the honor killing. That's something I think the Guardian now, if you look at it now, it's like, yeah, that's extremely homophobic. And nobody could even say that. But then, so I think the Guardian is trying to just, basically say that,
change the attitude of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, you can't change the facts. If he's killed this man because this man is giving him unwanted homosexual attention for over 10 years, then that's the facts.
Well, I would like to know what their persuasive evidence that Kamer wasn't gay. That's what I would like to know.
Yeah, because it's like William S. Burroughs. He was sticking his dick in Joan Vollmer, but he was also sticking his dick in like all these Mexican rent boys.
Which kind of leads us into our next topic here.
Yes, it does. Lovely.
The
'Cause
second death of the Beat generation.
this is
So this involves Yeah,
Burroughs
William
and
Burroughs'
Joan
common law wife,
in a
Joan Fulmer.
twist of fate game. So Joan Vollmer is one of the more well-known ladies associated with the Beat generation, although she was never published in her lifetime, like say Carolyn Cassidy or Edie Parker or Jan Kerouac. Joan was known as being fiercely intelligent and well-read, traits that she shared with her husband William S. Burroughs. He's shown a little picture there. There she
There's a
is
little
in New
picture of
York.
Joan Fulmer. Yeah.
So you've got a clip to play by the poet Herbert Huncke, who to me is now I'm older, is my favorite member of the Beats. His poetry is outworldly good. Do I sound like a dick? His
You
poetry
seem
is
to
so
have a
good.
particular affection for Joan Burroughs.
Yes, I did. I liked her very much. No, nothing involved except that I did admire her. I spent many hours with her, which were very pleasant and very interesting. She was my idea of a very brilliant woman. She was very independent of the rest of mankind. And I think I liked her mostly for that. She was her own person, and she didn't hesitate to speak her feelings, although she was never adamant. I mean, she wasn't a ranter and a raver, but she could voice her objections and very effectively.
I like how she was independent from mankind. It's a great quote.
He's a lovely, got a wonderful turn of phrase. I really like Herbert. So Joan was born to a lot of the Beats came from well-to-do families in Loudonville, New York on February 4th, 1923. She attended Barnard College. She met Edie Parker, who would become her flatmate, at the famous West End bar where all the cool cats are hanging out, taking
Edie
Benzedrine,
Parker.
drinking. Oh yeah, Edie's a looker. You can see why.
Yeah,
Jack
Edie was
Kerouac
much more
likes her.
attractive than Joan.
Yeah. Although this is not a flattering picture of Edie, but
No,
Jack Kerouac loved Edie.
it's Joan Fulmer.
So together they lived in a
Mugshot.
series of like Upper West Side apartments. These West Side apartments, they were frequented by like hustlers, alcoholics, speed freaks, winos, grifters, all taking uppers and downers. There'd be handfuls
Bennies,
of like,
Black Beauties,
yeah, prostitutes,
Yellow
poets,
Jackets.
punks, college students. They were all like looking for a place to like tune in
Pretty
and turn
cool
on.
scene.
Totally cool scene. And they were at the epicenter of it, these two ladies. So Joan at the time, she was married to a military man. She had a young child who was also living in this apartment. But when her husband came back from the war, he was so appalled at this like laissez-faire lifestyle that he divorced her. He just came back and was like, fuck this. I'm not having this. And Joan was like, fuck you too. Joan was like very well known. She would take like 4 or 5 hour long baths, but you could go and sit in there with her. She would just keep topping up the water. When it began to cool, she would drink gin. She would read Rimbaud in the bath, and she'd just be off her nut on Benzedrine. I've got a great
She must
quote
have been
here.
pleasant to be around.
She was though. She was just a cool chick. So, by all accounts, so the writer James Elroy, who I also love, he's got a great passage in one of his books about how he describes what Benzedrine inhalers are. Do you know what Benzedrine is?
Yeah, Benzedrine. It's an upper, right?
Yeah, it's basically speed.
Yeah, it's speed, more or less.
So the way they were back then in like the
You just
30s,
sniff it, right?
well, that's not how they took it. I think it got outlawed. I tried to look, but I think it got outlawed in the late 60s. So this is James Elroy. They were over-the-counter decongestant products encased in little plastic tubes. The tubes held a wad of cotton soaked in a substance called profahexadrine. You were supposed to stick the tube in your nose and take a few sniffs. You weren't supposed to swallow the wads and fly on righteous 10-hour speed highs.
So they would just rip it out and just eat the whole wad of cotton.
Most people would put it in tea or coffee. James Elroy, because he was so addicted to it back then, he would eat it. The Benzedrine inhalers are legal. They cost 69 cents. And I think you also had to buy them in boxes. So I think you'd buy 10 of them at a time. And there you go. That's you flying high for a long time.
It's interesting how she had a relationship with Burroughs, who was addicted to heroin.
And
Meanwhile,
she's on
she's addicted to
speed.
Benzedrine, which you think are like completely, on opposite levels here.
Yeah, I'm just
Opposite
about
playing
to get
fields.
into their relationship
Yeah.
because in 1946, Allen Ginsberg introduced the pair because he was convinced that Joan was the double of William, that they were two halves of the same coin. Their relationship was fiery and passionate from the start. They they really respected each other. They loved each other, but it was a very tumultuous relationship.
So would you say that Burroughs was bisexual then?
I think at this point, Burroughs was hiding his sexuality. I think he'd had a lot of homosexual affairs up until this point, but I do think he loved Joan. I think Joan very much was a similar character to him, but he's also there comes to a point where he's so out of it on junk he can't have sex, and they didn't have
Yeah.
sex for the majority of their relationship. So I think it was a very much like a mutual respect and understanding type of love that they
Yeah, I
had.
think it was probably not really physical as much as it was mental.
Yeah, I think he also struggled probably to get it up because it wasn't it wasn't a schlong. That's what William S. Burroughs wants. He wants your schlong. So William was born, like I said before, he was born in St. Louis in 1923, and he was the heir of a family fortune. So his grandfather had invented the Burroughs adding machine. I had to look up what this looked like. So they're like one of those, they're like a big old timey typewriter looking things. So like imagine the 1920s in a smoky room, and there's an accountant with like arm cuffs on, and he's got a visor and he's got a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, and he's doing the accounts on like a typewriter. That's a Burroughs adding machine.
I think I mentioned to you off air, but my parents had one of those.
You did.
And
I'm very
I remember
jealous.
being perplexed by it because it was like this huge thing. And I'm like, why don't you just have a calculator? Because that thing is massive and it's heavy. But yeah, I don't know whatever happened to it. I think we got rid of it before we moved to South Africa. But I remember as a kid, I was like, what the fuck is this thing? Just like a
Yes.
big, massive metal calculator.
So this was in the days before the calculator was invented. Before we all had
Yeah.
calculators in our pockets. Didn't you love that in school when people were like, you need to learn maths because you won't always have a calculator in your pocket. It's like, yeah. Fuck you, maths teacher, Mr. Jones. Anyways, so Burroughs had a really comfortable life, a very comfortable life. He attended,
Yeah,
he
I mean,
went
it's
to
a trust fund.
Harvard. Yeah, he did his postgrad in Columbia. He went to study medicine in Vienna. This shows you how well off he was. So he enlisted to fight in World War II. He was really into it, but he found out he wouldn't become an officer. So his mother basically paid for him to be honorably discharged, claiming that he had mental health problems when he didn't. He just did it. He was like, I want to be an officer. I don't want to be infantry. I want to be an officer.
I think his family got him out of many situations.
Oh boy, did
their
they.
money.
So in this time, he held a few other jobs, never seriously. He had a well-known summer where he spent being an exterminator. If you've ever read Naked Lunch, you'd know all about that.
Yeah.
That had a profound impact on him. And he was writing. He's always been writing. But in the early 1940s, him and his friend David Kramer, they moved to 1940s New York. And it wasn't long while he was there that he developed a morphine addiction. As
Not
we all know about.
surprising. Yeah, not surprising. which
Yeah.
which proved to be like a major inspiration to his work.
Of course.
You know?
His life was deeply affected by drugs, and he spent time being a junkie in London, Paris, Mexico, and Tangier. And he was searching for a high or for a cure to some extent. It was always like swings and roundabouts with him.
And I think it's definitely very enabling when you have your parents' vast fortune that can just, pay for you to go around the world and do drugs.
Yes.
You know?
Very like
Believe me,
Crowley.
charm life. I'm very jealous.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, me too. It's very like Crowley in a way, because Crowley came from a very rich family, and they basically paid for him to have a morphine and heroin addiction his whole life.
You don't have to work. You could be a writer. You
You
just
can do
do
what you want.
heroin and write and go to cool cities
Mm.
and have your rent paid. Yeah, no, it's the life I've always wanted.
So in spring of 46, Burroughs was arrested. He'd forged a narcotics prescription, and as part of his plea deal, he had to return to his mummy and daddy in St. Louis. And it was at this time that Joan suffered a full-on complete nervous breakdown. It could be because her lover, whom she was completely and utterly devoted to Burroughs at this point. So devoted that Ginsburg had actually been telling Bill that he should break it off with her because she is just obsessed with you. But I actually think her breakdown was caused from the years. She'd spent about 6 years now taking vast
Pennies.
quantities of pharmaceutical speed. Yeah. So she was imprisoned in Bellevue, notorious Bellevue.
Must have been a great mom.
Get into what happened with her children later. And then upon hearing the news, Burroughs, for like everything you can say about him, he rushed back to New York. He released her. He paid for her to come out. And from that point onwards, they were never apart again. And they didn't formally marry, but Joan on that day just, were common law. And she referred to herself as Mrs. William Burroughs until her dying day. So she was his wife in a way.
Yeah, no, they were common law married.
So because of all their troubles with drugs, she's high on speed, he's high on smack. They began moving around the country. They first went to Texas, followed by New Orleans. While in New Orleans, Burroughs was busted for possession. The police searched his home, and while they had arrested him, and they found a letter to Ginsburg where Burroughs was implying that they might be smuggling illegal substances across state lines. So this has now led to the worst criminal charges of his life. There's a very good chance that he was going to be sent to Louisiana's infamous Angola State Prison, which is not a good prison to go to.
Yeah, especially at that time, you'd probably be going away for life.
Forevers. So they decided between them, they were like, fuck it. What can we do? Where did the outlaws go? So they went to Mexico.
Mexico City.
Mexico City, their final destination. They arrived there in 1949. But sadly, they were not to have a good time in Mexico City. It was cursed to them from the very beginning.
Yeah, Vollmer was very unhappy in Mexico City, mainly because Benzedrine was unavailable.
And so, Burroughs was also detoxing. They were bitter and resentful towards each other by this point. Burroughs, because he had detoxed off the heroin, his libido is back, isn't it? But he's not wanting to shag his wife. He's wanting to shag all the street rat rent boys and all the prostitutes that are basically, they cost him nothing. It was like 2 pesos to shag these boys back then. And he's a rich man. So he indulged.
Yeah, so I mean, why not? And now he can get it up, so...
No, and she knew all about it too. And she would write in letters to Ginsburg about like, oh, William's really happy because he's got his rent boys. I'm less happy. But that's what, because she was clean of Benzedrine too. But as Burroughs was like philandering around on her, she felt abandoned, alone, and she turned to booze for comfort. Like it's tale as old as time, isn't it?
She wrote to Ginsburg that she was drunk from 8 a.m. on, and she said, Bill is fine in himself, and so are we jointly. The boys are lovely, easy and cheap, pesos, 40 cents for a rent boy, but my patience is infinite.
Oh.
Yeah, so I mean, she loved him. She definitely stuck with him, but you could tell that
she sounds unhappy, doesn't she?
Yeah, she sounds very unhappy at this point. And I guess like even physically, like the alcohol and the drug addictions aged her noticeably. Her face was swollen, and she even limped due to a recent bout of polio. So
I didn't know that. I didn't know she didn't contracted the polio in Mexico.
Yeah.
There were worse things you could contract in Mexico.
I'm sure Bill did. I'm sure Bill contracted a few things.
So, she's at home sloppy drunk. So Bill would stay away for days and nights because they would just fight. Sometimes these fights would turn physical. He writes about it in one of his books. I think it's Queer, where he talks about how he slaps her. So friends would visit. Kerouac and Ginsburg, they came down to and they all had a big road trip together. But the joy of these people coming to see them, it never lasted long, and the couple was just so miserable. Although they had no idea
each other.
Where this misery was going to take them.
Well, even Herbert Huncke came down and stayed with them, and he was struck by Burroughs' just complete indifference to Joan. He said that he was annoyed. He was just annoyed by her. And I guess there is a petition for divorce that was initiated in Mexico in 1950 by Burroughs or Vollmer or both of them, but they're
never went anywhere.
Materialized. Yeah.
Well, I bet they wish they did get divorced because on September the 6th, 1951, the couple had gone out drinking for the night, which is nothing out of the ordinary for them. They went out drinking every night. So they ended up at the apartment above the bar that they had been drinking in. And there was a few other people in this room. William S. Burroughs is a lifelong avid gun nut. He's been shooting guns. Like, he probably came out the womb shooting a gun. He loves guns. He has a gun collection. He would shoot guns in the house in front of the kids in Mexico.
Wow.
So he pulled out his trusty pistol, which he always carried on him, and he started waving it around drunkenly. And he said to Joan in his very slow Missouri drawl, "It's time for our William Tell act."
Right. See where this is going.
You can see how this is going, yes? Although there is like no known knowledge that this was their actual party trick. No one knows if they'd ever played this before. Joan was game for it. She would never turn down fun. So she was just as drunk as Bill. She grabbed an empty highball glass. She placed it on top of her head. Don't forget that both were in the depths of withdrawal and depression and drink. The gun
and they were completely
they
inebriated. Yeah.
But yeah. Burroughs took aim and he fired just once. The bullet struck Joan in her forehead and she died instantly.
Yeah. And the couple's 4-year-old son, William Burroughs Jr., was in the room when his mother was shot.
Which could also be one of the reasons why William S. Burroughs Jr. died very young too. There's a lot of sad tales.
Yeah, some trauma probably occurred there.
So Burroughs claimed that he had like dropped the gun and it misfired, and he only spent 13 days in jail, in Mexican jail, before his brother traveled down and bailed him out, and they basically fled the country.
Well, prior to that though, so he had this whole William Tell story. People saw it. There were witnesses there, but his Mexican attorney, Bernabe Jurado, was like, yeah, maybe drop that story. Let's not go the William Tell route. And instead, he was saying that he dropped the gun and it misfired, and that it accidentally happened. He didn't even know, like he hadn't touched that gun in like months. And so he didn't even know it was loaded, and he accidentally dropped it. And it went off and it slipped and it misfired and it hit Vollmer. This is what Jurado, his lawyer, was saying.
That is so not the truth. There is not a gun that Bill is not shooting. He was shooting his guns daily.
And there were witnesses there that saw what happened. And so that's the thing. He was claiming that was like, the carriage slipped and it misfired. And so he got charged with criminal negligence, which carried like a maximum sentence of 5 years. And so for a year, while they were trying to sort this out, he reported every Monday morning to the jail in Mexico City, which must have been an awful, abysmal place. And his lawyer worked to resolve the case. However, his lawyer ended up fleeing to Brazil after shooting a youth who damaged his Cadillac. So he took off to Brazil. And so Burroughs was like, yeah, fuck this. And they just left and went back to the US. Like his brother came down, they get some money and they just took off and they went to Louisiana, and where he had actually previously had that narcotic charge against him, but apparently, I guess.
That got forgotten about.
Yeah, that was forgotten
some
about.
Monies. So the Mexican court, they convicted him in absentia.
Absentia,
and he received only a 2-year suspended sentence because he would eventually go back to Mexico as well. So the two children were taken back to the States as well, and they were split up. They went to the two different grandparents. Joan's daughter took on her mother's last name, and she lived a relatively normal life. But their son, William S. Burroughs Jr., who also went on to become a writer, he died of alcoholism at the age of 33. 33!
It's an interesting thing because if you were a kid, who would you want to go to? The super wealthy parents or just like the normal parents? It's a tough choice.
See, I kind of would want to go to the normal parents because the super wealthy parents are still going to send you money. But if you have to live with like the kind of like, genteel rich elite, you're going to have to do all that kind of boring bullshit where you eat with proper silver. But at least if you're with the normal folk, you can like get away with murder.
It didn't work out too well for Bill Jr. over here. So I read that Vollmer was actually buried in Mexico City, which is kind of sad in a way.
It is next to strangers by herself.
Why wouldn't he pay for her to come back to, where are they from? St. Louis?
I think it was no,
Ludenville.
yeah, probably he just didn't care. And like, I don't know. I know it costs a lot of money to transport bodies, but I can't even imagine the complexities of taking a body from Mexico City and bringing it into the States.
Yeah, that's weird. So, yeah, I mean, maybe that's why she was buried there. Maybe she really felt attached to Mexico or something. So now the reactions to Vollmer's death
Oh yeah, I've
is
got some
is
good
rather
stuff.
interesting. Yeah, so it- people are kind of split on it. Like Ginsburg and Lucian Carr defended Burroughs, and they believe that Vollmer may have encouraged the whole William Tell incident, stating that she seemed kind of suicidal when they visited her in 1951.
I can imagine that. I can imagine maybe she didn't suggest it, but just simply by the fact she was like, okay, and she put a glass on her head, she's going along with it, isn't she?
Well, I imagine they must have been like a very, you know,
Volatile.
volatile couple that fought and drank heavily and were passionate. And so I'm assuming that this probably was like she might have dared him to do it. Like
So
he
I
might have
have,
joked about it and she dared him to do it.
well, Burroughs, he had subconscious fears that he did actually want to kill Joan because he wrote in a letter to Ginsburg, this is in 1954. I may yet attempt a story or some account of Joan's death. I think I am afraid. Not exactly to discover unconscious intent. It's more complex, more basic, and more horrible, as if the brain drew the bullet towards it.
It's very telling. I mean, it's interesting.
It is interesting.
You
And like,
know,
oh yeah, I bet you're going to say the same thing I'm about to say.
the intro to Queer.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to talk about. So this is in his introduction to his book Queer, which is probably my favorite book by him because
Yeah, it's a great book.
it's a
If you're
great
gonna read a
book.
Burroughs book, Naked Lunch obviously is famous, but Queer I think is one of his best
Queer
works.
and Junkie are my two favorite works by him. I like The Soft Machine too. So he writes at the introduction to his book, I am forced to the appalling conclusion that I would never have become a writer but for Joan's death. Vollmer's death, in Burroughs' view, brought me in contact with the invader, the ugly spirit, and maneuvered me into a lifelong struggle in which I had no choice except to write my way out.
Yeah. The
So
Invader.
I kind of look at that two ways though, because Burroughs had been writing for years before he killed Joan, but I definitely think he was racked with guilt over it. I think he came to kind of see like his writing as a way to escape the ugly spirit, as he called it, that kind of took over him. And if he wrote every day, he could kind of atone for what had happened. Although,
Well,
like, Joan had no chance for an epiphany, did she? She's dead.
he definitely was racked with guilt. I mean, you can see in the letter they wrote to Ginsburg. I mean,
Of course.
I think he thought he might have actually. I mean, it makes sense that he might have actually thought like about killing her frequently. I mean, this could have been, like when you're drunk, you lose your inhibitions.
Who
This
doesn't
could
as
have,
well? When you're in an unhappy relationship, you do
yeah.
think, I wish you were dead. Or you think about it's natural.
And they had a volatile relationship. So I mean, I think, and I'm sure he felt after this happened, whether it was an accident or not, he was definitely racked with guilt about it. He felt remorse.
So Allen Ginsberg also wrote of her. He wrote in his dream record, June 8th, 1955. He said, Joan, what kind of knowledge have the dead? Can you still love your mortal acquaintances? What do you remember of us? So she's
Yeah.
very well remembered. Another writer called Brenda Knight, who wrote a book called The Woman of the Beat Generations, she says that Joan's very similar to Lucian Carr in this way. She's the whetstone against which the main beat writers, Alan, Jack, and Bill, sharpened their intellect. Wildly considered one of the most perceptive people in the group, her strong mind and independent nature helped bulldoze the beats towards new sensibility.
And Burroughs himself described her in glowing terms, called her a very extraordinary woman. She was the smartest person around, and she had immediate insight into anyone's character. Just one look, and she knew. So, I mean, he definitely respected her. There's some mutual admiration there.
Oh,
but-
of course. I think even though it ended badly for them, they still wouldn't have been together if there wasn't a love there.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was a healthy relationship.
Oh no.
So what's interesting is if people, obviously you do your own research, read these books. I think it's great. But there are two movies that came out relatively recently, past couple of decades. about these incidents. One is a 2013 film called Kill Your Darlings, about the Lucian Carr, David Kamer murders. Daniel Radcliffe plays Ginsburg. Dane DeHaan plays Lucian Carr. Dane DeHaan was, I think he was in like the second Spider-Man movie. He played like the Green Goblin's son.
Okay. Oh, him.
And,
Right.
and
Yes.
he looks actually a lot like Lucian Carr. And Michael C. Hall, Dexter, plays Kamerer, which is a perfect casting.
That's perfect casting. Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree with that.
And then there's also the movie Beat, which came out in 2000, which is a biographical account of the relationship.
I really like this movie. I've
Yeah,
seen this
Joan
movie a
Vollmer
whole
and William
bunch.
Burroughs. And Courtney Love plays Joan Vollmer.
And she's
Who
great.
plays Burroughs? Oh, Kiefer Sutherland plays Burroughs.
He's great. The casting in that film is also really, really good. And that focuses on when Kerouac and Ginsberg came down to Mexico to spend time with them as well. It's good. I recommend that film. I've not
I actually haven't
before.
seen Beat. Yeah, I haven't seen Beat.
Yeah,
I've
I
seen
do
the other one
recommend
before,
it.
which is good. But yeah, two very interesting films. A very interesting period of the Beat generation. A lot of people don't really know about. Coming full circle though, Ferlinghetti. That's how it all started. He'll be missed. This guy, he definitely, influenced the beat
He
movement.
paved the way.
Yeah, he like propagated the beat movement. I think without him, without him publishing Howl and things like this, I don't think as many people would ever have known about it.
I don't think
taking a chance on it,
It was obviously Ginsberg who pushed that all, but I don't think any of them would have ever found the level. They would not have been a literary movement, because I don't think there's been a literary movement since the Beats, like to that extent. And without Lawrence, that wouldn't have happened.
I mean, he definitely created the nucleus of it all, and surrounded by City Lights and publishing this work, fighting against censorship. In particular, I read a pretty interesting quote that it was in court when he was facing the obscenity charge. It was the people of the state of California versus Lawrence Ferlinghetti. He made a very profound case against censorship. He said, "It's not the poet, but what he observes, which is revealed as obscene. The great obscene wasters of Howl are the sad wastes of the mechanized world, lost among atom bombs and insane nationalism." And it's very profound. Yeah. So on that note, I tip my glass to you, Lawrence Ferlinghetti.
Yes, a hero.
A true hero. People, it's Sick and Wrong, episode 780. We have some news stories coming up next. We have some phone calls a little later in the show. But first, here's a word about the Sick and Wrong Patreon page. All right. That was interesting. Good.
I was going to say, so what happened, we had the Beat generation, but then in England, what happened because of the Beats was the Angry Young Men movement. So we had like Alan Sillitoe, who wrote Loneliness of the Long Distance Runner and Saturday Night, Sunday Morning, which is one of my all-time favorite books and films. Albert Finney is in that film.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, Albert Finney is the Angry Young Man. And there's also a film, the only Angry Young Man film, because it was a film movement too, that had a female in it, was a great film called Darling with Julie Christie. I totally recommend that. Julie Christie's hot as fuck. And she's in like little baby doll 1960s negligees. It's great. It's a very dark film. But there's never been another literary movement like the Beats. And I wonder what it would take nowadays, because people's attention spans are so short that I just don't think it could happen.
Well, I don't think we're a nation of readers anymore. I mean, I don't think
I remember the Bill Hicks joke where he's like, "What you reading for?"
I'm trying to think in like the 70s or 80s, were there any literary movements really?
Not to the extent of the Beats.
Yeah,
there's been like little pockets, but I mean, when you look at how William S. Burroughs changed things and how Allen Ginsberg changed, even Kerouac himself changed things, there's been nothing like that ever since to come from a group of writers. There's like also the Bloomsbury group that was very early on.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else that would be like today's variation of that.
Somebody said
I'm trying to think like
Sick and Wrong is a movement.
The
bowel movement.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go grab a beer.
Hey, I gotta take a piss. I'll be right back. Yeah. Wait, I'm gonna write that to him. I got a good story coming up next for you people. This is a good one. It's a good one. Let's see here. I forgot to show I totally forgot to show this great picture of Burroughs. Check this out. It's a great picture of Burroughs. This is his mugshot. It's like when he well, it's not really a mugshot, but it's when he was arrested. It's a great picture of Burroughs. Very young here. And then here's a classic William Burroughs picture. Wonder how much that suit cost. He kind of looks a little like Dahmer in this picture. Doesn't he kind of look like Dahmer? Got a little Dahmer, maybe it's the glasses. I'm not sure. Got a little Dahmer thing going on. It's the hair. It's probably the hair. That's why it looks like Dahmer. Anyway. All right, I got to take a piss.
Do you like my shirt?
Oh yeah,
My
you know
lesbian
that.
shirt. What?
You do have a good lesbian shirt. That's what I was thinking. Multi-Twat Man came up. The Brat Pack in the 80s and 90s with Bret Easton Ellis. That was kind of a movement.
Yeah, kind of, but that's only Bret Easton Ellis.
No, there were two other authors too during that
attached
time.
to it, was there?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who else was in the Brat Pack. There were several others, but and then also wasn't Cormac McCarthy, I thought was in a group as well. That was like kind of a bit of a literary movement.
Oh,
definitely nowhere near the level of
the Beats.
Generation, yeah.
And there was like obviously so many like they're just the free core members. We didn't even touch on like there's Gregory
Like Holden
Corso,
Chase and
Neil,
Chase, Cassidy,
Herbert Huncke, Cassidy, and then all the Beat women. Carolyn Cassidy.
Yeah,
she
the
wrote
Beat
my
women
favorite
too.
Beat books. So because I counted up, let's have a literary flex here. I counted up all the books I have that are associated just with the written by the Beats or associated by the Beats, and I have 35 fucking books by these fuckers. Like,
goddamn.
There's like how many other you know what I mean, right? I do also have all of Bret Easton Ellis's books too. I used to love.
Yeah, I love Bret Easton Ellis. Although a couple of his recent books, I wasn't. I
stopped at Luna Park. I did quite enjoy Luna Park. I thought it was quite scary. It was like good to see a scary tale from him. But after that, I got bored.
Check out this pic. Doesn't he kind of look a little like Dahmer here?
Just like a little Dahmer thing. He's kind of sexy though.
You into it? I wonder how old he was at this point.
Oh, that's when he killed Joan. So
yeah,
51. Would he?
He was 50.
1950.
No, oh yeah, he would have been like in his 30s. Mm-hmm. Here he is. I forgot to show this picture, but that's kind of what most people.
I love William S. Burroughs. I think he's a genius. He's a genius that like few of us ever will.
I do agree that he's a genius, but I kind of do think he's a bit of an entitled cunt too.
he's definitely an entitled cunt.
But
what
a lot of
he-
those guys were though.
They all were. They were all
Yeah.
from like well-off families, and William S. Burroughs never hid that. He definitely always talks about it. There's some of his books where he mentions that if his parents hadn't have like basically paid his rent for his whole life, he would have been dead. He would have died.
Like this guy Michael Turner is like, I haven't dug through the beat stuff. Weren't they basically hippies before acid?
Yes,
I guess they were hippies on
they were on.
Benzedrine and heroin.
Yeah, they were on the road. Well, Neil Cassidy is probably the first ever hippie, I would say.
Well, Neil Cassidy ended up being part of the whole Ken Kesey electric Kool-Aid movement thing. So those guys were definitely hippies. But yeah, these guys predated them by what, like 10, 15 years?
If
20
you want
years?
like a good starter beat book, apart from On the Hippos of Bodden Tank, you'll read that in an afternoon.
Yeah, I
Sharon
want to check that out.
Cassidy wrote 2 books. She wrote Heartbeat and Off the Road, and it's about her time being, married to Neil Cassidy with Jack Kerouac and Allen Ginsberg. Those books are such easy reads. She's a great writer.
You know, Bukowski's often lumped in with the Beat Generation, but he's a little later.
He's not. He is a
Yeah.
little later, and Bukowski is his own.
That's what
world.
I've always thought too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bukowski has always been one of my favorites.
Oh,
I know people
love
are always
him.
people always kind of be like, oh yeah, I loved him when I was like 16. It's like, yeah, I first discovered Bukowski when I was in high school. I had a really cool English teacher, Mr. Van Looy, who he was really cool. He gave us all, that's how we found about Naked Lunch, just on the road. And at that point I'd already been like reading Hunter S. Thompson and I was familiar with that.
Same
and
happened to me as well. It's
yeah,
like a
but
slippery slope with these guys.
Van Looy was super cool, and that's how I found out about the Beat Generation. But he also, was really influential with like Bukowski and so at the time I remember like just being blown away by it, like blown away by Bukowski. And even today, it's like, I'm still as impressed as I was back when I was like 16.
I love
reading his book.
Bukowski's books. Some of his books are like hit or miss, like his later
Yeah.
ones, like Hollywood and all that. But like his
Yeah,
poetry-
Pulp.
Oh
Did you
my
read Pulp?
god, I've
It's
read
like,
Pulp
eh.
as well, and
It's
a bit,
it's okay. It's good.
My
but
favorite
the
Bukowski
post
book
office.
is Woman. Now,
Yeah, woman's probably
Women-
woman's probably the best.
that whole saga with the clay head. There is nothing that
Oh,
defines
yeah.
a man and a woman's relationship more than that
Yeah,
whole saga.
woman's amazing. I think poetry wise, Love is a Dog from Hell is
Oh
probably
my
my
god,
favorite.
he is also a crazed genius as well. But I think
Yeah.
Bukowski's the type of guy that you could have. William S. Burroughs would always be a very guarded fellow, but I feel like Bukowski would tell you things.
The thing I admired about Bukowski too is he's like working class. Like that guy,
Oh,
he worked
yeah.
at the fucking post office, ate at like the Sizzler.
Well, he lived. Whereabouts in Hollywood do you live? How far away
In-
is he from you?
Well, where I first initially lived was right in the area that he lived in. So when I lived, it's not really East Hollywood. It was kind of more Central Hollywood, but
Yeah.
Western and I
The
lived
bar
on.
he used to drink at, I know that's still there.
I lived on Western and Russell. But that area over there. Oh yeah, the Frolic room's right up the street.
Yeah.
But now I kind of live more in close, still kind of central, but like West Hollywood, Central.
Mm.
So not as close as I used to be. There used to be when I lived over there, Western, kind of like Western Hollywood, Western Russell. That's kind of was his stomping ground. There's another bar that was torn down that he hung out at, but the place that he used to hang out at, I wrote about, was X Marks the Spot. And there's this porn shop right in the corner. It's gone now. Now it's a Petco. But I love when I first moved there. I'm like, fuck, there's X Marks the Spot. That's where Bukowski bought his porn.
I think so. So like when I was researching that Harvey Glattman overkill, I looked on Google Maps about like his flat where he lived, and he kept all his porno. And it's like, isn't it wild? Like, there's somebody living in Charles Bukowski's Hollywood apartment right now. Do
Yeah.
you think they know there's somebody living in like Harvey
The
Glattman's
Cramps,
Hollywood
the Cramps apartment.
Yeah. Oh god,
You
yeah.
know?
The Cramps house in where's that?
Yeah,
near?
Lux and Ivy.
Glendale. Oh, they lived
Yeah.
in Hollywood too. but
Well,
they
Lux and Ivy lived in an
Glendale.
apartment right up
Yeah.
I forget what street it was.
That's when she nearly got abducted,
Oh yeah.
Yeah, poor
Crazy.
Ivy. But if you're gonna abduct a woman, you're gonna abduct Ivy, aren't you?
Ducked Ivy. Yeah.
Hot.
All right.
Have morning beer, chaps. It's 5
Yeah,
o'clock
morning beer.
somewhere.
It's always never too early to drink.
It's never too early to drink.
All right, I'm drinking like Trump. No, it says two hands.
Is that how Trump drinks? Is that
Trump
how
always drinks with like two
does
hands.
he?
But this is a big fucking mug, you know.
As I say, is that how he chokes on dick as well?
All
With
right,
two
you ready?
hands? Mhm.
So the first story we have here is truly horrific. This is a horrifying tale. It's very grisly. Oklahoma murder suspect confesses to killing neighbor and cooking her heart.
The cannibal.
Yeah, this is like some Temple of Doom type shit.
The cannibal next door. Kalina.
Gnarly. It happened. I love the name of this Oklahoma town. Chickasha. 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 I like that. I like it. Like rolls off the tongue. It's better than like fucking English towns. Cockermouth.
Knobbergod.
God, you guys have the word cock in almost like, I don't know, half your cities.
Yeah, but isn't there a place in the UK called Shitterton as well?
Shitterton.
Shitterton.
I mentioned this on Patreon, but Warwick Davis sent me this map of just like the best names for English cities. I have like all the names now. Yeah, Slap Bottom, Cocking, Happy Bottom, Golden
Happy
Ball.
boy.
Golden Balls is a roundabout. Spankers Hill Wood. Ticklecock Bridge. You guys have the word cock in like half the cities in England.
I've got
Okay.
it. Yeah, but you know that's because it's the river. It's the name of the little river or lake where it ends.
It's Cock Lake.
Cock Lake. Yeah.
You guys just love
Cockermouth.
cock.
Of course we are. We're obsessed with it, mate. The sausage.
I think a
Sausage
lot of
mash.
a lot of American cities are named after like Native American names, like Chickasha. Triple murder suspect Lawrence Paul Anderson wept Tuesday at his first court appearance. It's a case that includes evidence of cannibalism. Oh God, he said during the video arraignment. Oh God. And he wept. He wiped away tears with his heavily bandaged right hand. And he started crying after being charged formally with murder. I don't think this guy has much of a reason to cry. He's a pretty awful person.
Yeah. He's obviously not having a good time in his jail cell.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's right in the head. 42 years old, Anderson. I like his name is, I was thinking P.T. Anderson, but it's Lawrence Paul Anderson. Faces 3 counts of first-degree murder, 1 count of assault and battery with a deadly weapon, and 1 count of maiming. Judge Regina Lowe denied his bail, which Lawrence actually agreed with. He said, I don't want no bail, Your Honor. I don't want no bail. So I think I don't think he even wants to get out at this point.
Yeah.
He's accused of killing his uncle, Leon Pye, 67 years old, attacking his aunt, Delcy Pye.
Their last name is Pye, as in
P-Y-E.
P-Y-E.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a
I'm
very
assuming it's
unfortunate-
Pye.
It's very unfortunate last name.
Mr. Pye.
Mr. Pye.
Yeah, I like it. I like her name, Delcy. Delcy Pye.
Delcy, yeah.
Delcy Pye. So
Della?
he killed his uncle, attacked his aunt, and then he's accused of killing their granddaughter. I don't even know how to say her name. Kios Yates, 4 years old, and a woman who lived across the street. So he just went on like a killing spree here.
It sounds like it. Deaf to
Yeah.
pies.
The woman that was killed across the street is Andrea Lynn Blankenship, 41 years old. He was arrested at the Pye home after police responded to a 911 call.
The pie
Ah,
home.
There's a restaurant here in Los Feliz called House of Pies.
Yeah, this is
House of Pies. Yeah.
Oh.
It's
You
great.
know what
It's
the
actually
joke would
kind of a good
be
place.
if they were like middle class and white? It would be like, our last name is Pie, but we actually don't like pies, do we, honey? Every party they're doing that bit.
They probably would. It's a very white joke. It's very white
Yes.
humor. But these people are black, so I don't know if they would do it. But maybe. I don't know.
Pie isn't really a
Um,
thing over here. Meat pies are, but like dessert
Mince
pie.
pies. Don't you guys have mince pies?
We have both mince pies at Christmas, which are fruit, and then we have mince pies throughout the year, which are meat. But like
You
dessert
guys don't have like
pies,
blueberry pies or lemon pies or anything like that?
apple and cherry pies are kind of like pretty much all you'll get. But we're big on crumbles here, like an apple crumble.
Apple pie is very American.
Well, you stick your dicks in them. I've seen it. I've seen it on
I'm
film.
not a fan of pie. I don't like pie, but I'm not like a big dessert person. So,
Mhm.
the case has been called shocking, mainly because of the grisly details, but also this repeat felon had been released from prison early in January because the governor of Oklahoma, Kevin Stitt, commuted his sentence. I'm telling you, Kate, these days, U.S. prisons have revolving doors and escalators. They do.
Yes, do they? Is this in your
And
humble
down.
opinion? Well, why don't you pay some more taxes to keep them all in then?
I don't want to do that, so fuck it.
Well, there you go.
Anderson confessed and said he killed his neighbor first. That's what started the killing rampage. And then he cut her heart out. He then took the heart back to the pie home to cook with potatoes and feed to his family to, quote, release the demons. So,
Right, you idiot. You make a pie with it, don't you?
yeah, you'd think he would do that. He's in a pie home. What else do
You're
you
in
do
the
in a
pie home. You're going to make them a heart pie. I wonder if you use spices. Like, the heart's like a weird
It's a-
meat.
Well, that's what I was wondering about that. First of all, is that how you release demons? Because I didn't know about this. Heart and potatoes. Is that-
Kalima. Kalima.
Yeah, I guess
I
maybe.
get the logic there, but yeah, I'm trying to. So you'd probably have to maybe boil the heart to get the best kind of texture and flavor out of it. But then it would be like boiled meat, which is never nice. Like every time you go to Eastern Europe, I'm like, why do people eat boiled meat out here? Why is it a thing?
Well, what about the potatoes? Mashed, baked?
If they
What
were
do we got
mashed,
here?
I'm not eating that if they're mashed, mate.
Yeah, but I
Getting
wonder
out
what kind of
here.
potatoes you eat with a heart, you know?
Well, traditionally in Britain, it would be pie, mash, and liquor.
Pie mash and
And
liquor.
liquor, yeah. That's
So
how
police
it's traditionally.
collected as evidence from the pie home one cooking pot with residue and one cooking pot with food inside. The question is, though, did they try the recipe?
I hope they did. I like to think. Well, the coroner will find it in their stomachs.
A little bite. Anderson cooked the heart at the pie home, and then he tried to make Delcy and Leon Pie eat the heart before he attacked them. So I wonder how that went down, because at least he cooked it first. He didn't try to shove a raw heart in their face, you know?
That's kind of him. I wonder if they were like, "Why is this meat gray? Where did you get this meat from? What is this meat?" And he was probably like, "Oh, just try it.
I just
try
wonder how it
it."
was presented. Like, was he like Mola Ram, just like, eat the heart? You know, like holding it. I don't know. Or did he serve it to him on a plate? It's all about presentation.
I wish
you
he'd
know?
made a TikTok of it, so Gordon Ramsay could review it.
You know, the thing is too, I'm wondering, like, did he boil it? What did it look like the organ? Or if he would have just like cut it up and mashed it in and made it look like, you know, you
Yeah,
would,
into little
then he could have
bits.
told them, yeah, then he could have told them after they ate it. Guess what you just did? You like
Yeah.
what you're eating? What'd you think? How did it taste? You like it?
That's like
That's your
episode.
neighbor's heart.
That's like that episode of It's So Sunny where he's like, "You like what you're eating? You're eating the dog."
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
then do the reveal. That's what you
There-
do.
That's what you want, the reveal at the end.
Anderson listed the pie address as his home, but the weird thing is, the family said that he only visited there since his release. And he was actually staying at a nearby inn. They were surprised to see him just show up, and they had no prior knowledge that he was being released, and they never consented to him listing their address as his home, which is kind of odd. Like all of a sudden, you're like, why is my violently insane convict nephew standing outside my house right now?
And
Like,
why
would
is
you
he
be a little
saying-
freaked out?
Yeah, and why is he saying dinner's ready?
Yeah, like why is he holding a bleeding heart? I just probably wouldn't let him in.
Well, I think was he not already in the house because he's cooked them all dinner. He's chopped up potatoes. he's
Well,
turned
but
the oven on.
initially, well, yeah, but that's later. Initially, they had to have let him in the house because he had visited only a couple times. But he had been sentenced in 2017 to serve 20 years behind bars for probation violations on a number of drug convictions and for several new crimes, like violent crimes. And so the government ended up commuting his sentence last year to 9 years. But then he was released after serving just 3 years,
That's crazy nice.
which is kind of odd. So the guy, you know, had numerous parole violations. He was convicted of violent crimes. I mean, drug crimes, but also violent crimes. And then they still commuted his sentence after 3 years. And then he just shows up at his aunt and uncle's house. Like, would you let the guy in?
This is why nobody should ever stay close to your family, because it's always your family that murders you. Just, I would have been like, no, I'm not having it. Gone inside my pie home, got on the pie phone, and I would have rang the donut eating cops. The DCA.
Well, I mean, okay, you can be close to your non-murderous family members. You
They'll
know,
all murder
maybe your
you.
family members. Yeah, maybe your family members that aren't convicted of violent crimes, that haven't been sentenced to 20 years in prison. Those people, I'd probably be like, yeah, you can come over for pie. You know,
Do you think
but this
at
guy,
at their wake, it was just round after round of pie?
yeah, probably will. It's at the pie home.
It's such a bad last
Um,
name.
So the district attorney here is seizing on this moment to go against the governor and rail against the governor in this whole prison reform. He says, "When is enough enough? How many hearts need to be cut out and served with potatoes before we stop this?" We've seen criminal justice reform in the state of Oklahoma now for several years. The goal that we have set in Oklahoma is to decrease the prison population with no thought for safety of the public. And so he doesn't feel that Oklahomans are safer for this change here. And so I guess the parole board revealed that they took up Anderson's application, who was sentenced to 20 years in prison. They took up his application for commutation January 2020, while it was considering 600 others. So they're going to commute the sentences of 600 other prisoners who are convicted of violent crimes.
But out those 600, though, how many people are going to go and slaughter pies?
I don't know. I have no idea how many people are
Not many, I don't think. Pie
Well,
eaters.
that's the thing. I mean,
Do you
it's-
know, wait, can I just tell you some British slang? Pie is also slang for a woman's, you know,
hair pie, pussy.
hair pie. Oh, do you
Yeah.
guys say it too?
Yeah, we say hair pie. It's kind of an
Gross.
older
Fucking
term. Yeah.
Gross. Yeah.
He said the reformers talk over and over about the nonviolent offenders in prison. Go tell these families, the Pie family, that Anderson was just a low-level nonviolent offender. And look what he did. He ate the pie.
He ate the pie.
He ate the hard pie. That's what happened there.
Gross.
Anderson's going to be evaluated to determine if he is mentally competent to be prosecuted. He did tell a judge when he pled guilty to the 2017 crimes that he got the 20-year conviction for, that he was taking bipolar medications and that he had stopped taking his medication. So I think
that's
he's definitely a
always
bit
the first
mental.
thing, isn't it? Yeah, but that's always the first thing they say. They always say, "Oh yeah, I was off my medication, so naturally, being off my medication, I'm gonna go and eat a heart and kill pies." That's that's always what they fucking say, mates.
Yeah, I don't think it justifies that those actions there.
It does not justify that level of leave the pie home alone.
Leave the pie home alone.
Mhm.
What do you have here for the second story?
So this second story, which I am delighted to tell you all, happened just down the road from me. Like this is
Oh.
kind of nearly in my neighborhood. Nearly.
Cumbria, in your
Nearly.
neighborhood.
No,
huh?
it's in my neighboring county of Northumberland.
Oh,
So,
Northumberland.
sadly or happily for those who fucking hate when I do accents, I can't do a Geordie accent. So I'll just be if you can do a Geordie accent, say it in your head.
Before we start, though, quick question: is it a shithole or not?
Parts of Newcastle are a shithole.
I
But
thought you
it's
said
on a whole.
Northumberland.
Northumberland, but this is Newcastle. Oh, right. Let's go with 99% of Northumberland is a fucking shithole.
Okay, all right.
Because
Puts in perspective.
some fucking awful towns in Northumberland. So 48 hours in hell. There was horrific injuries, a football coach tortured by thugs who filmed themselves carving nonce on his back.
Ooh, God, it's like
Yes.
getting a brand, a horrible brand.
So Jordan Story, he was attacked with an axe, a sledgehammer, a knife, a dumbbell bar, and a dog chain during this 48-hour nightmare ordeal.
Oh, that's like an arsenal of weapons there.
It is like that you can just find laying around the house.
He has attacked him with anything. Very utilitarian.
The thugs tied him to a chair. They set his hands and feet on fire. On fire, David, as they carved the incorrectly spelled word nonce into his back.
Yeah, how they spell nonce?
They
How
are
hard is
spelling
that to spell?
they are spelling nonce, Nonse, because I can really see. So like this guy's tied to a chair, his hands and feet are on fire, and they're just going. Somebody's like, let's write nonce on his back, and then halfway through it, he goes to write the C, and they're like, nah, what you doing, mate? It's like nonsense, nonce. It's not got a C in it. And instead of any of them getting out their phones to check how you write nonce, they were like, yeah, it's with an S, mate.
How
Carve it.
dumb do you
Carve
have to
it.
be to not know how to spell the word
Or
nonce?
nonce. Yeah, especially because it's like our word. As Britons, as Britonians, they should be very proud of the word nonce and the history behind it. But they're just
And
like,
now-
fuck it. Can't even spell it, mate.
And to make matters even worse, now you got nonce carved in your back, and it's
Yeah.
spelt wrong.
And
It's
it's also
like-
there's zero evidence that this guy is a nonce.
oh, so he wasn't even a nonce to
He's not
begin
even
with.
a nonce.
Oh my god.
Jordan, who is only 28, he believed he would be murdered because the gang were, doing all this. They discussed killing him and dumping his body, and then they were going to frame him for rape. Oh,
God, 28 years old. Now he's got the word nonce carved in his back. How big?
all across his back.
Across his back.
Across his back.
Nonce spelt wrong.
If you look
28-year-old
up, you
guy.
can see the injuries. They're all in the news articles. So the people who are doing this to him are Jamie Barker, Lewis Herman, and Rebecca McNally, and they all admitted wounding with intent. And then there was another woman involved called Chelsea Wilson, and she admitted unlawful wounding. So
I'm going to show you a picture real quick of these
these
fine people, these
bloody
upstanding
good-
English citizens.
good-looking bastards, aren't they? Oh my god!
There you go. You look at his arm; it almost looks like a fake arm, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, because it's all started to heal.
It's all like cut up. So, if you let's say you started dating a guy, and he had undergone some kind of horrible traumatic experience like this, but you didn't know about that, and you guys were getting intimate. He took his shirt off, and the word nonce was on his back, spelled wrong. Would you be turned off? Like, would you get
Oh, there would
dry
be
down there all of a sudden? Oh, you would ask him about it? Or would you continue?
Of course. I'd be like, firstly, I'd be like, you did good work spelling that. You must have done that in the mirror with like a scalpel. You've done that reverse, but you've spelt it wrong. You'd get tattooed, wouldn't you? You're gonna have to get tattoos.
I don't know what you could do. I mean, you'd plastic surgery or something to remove it.
So the reason that this is all kicking off is because, well, this is what the court heard. They were told that Jordan had known Wilson and Ford for 10 years, and she called him on February 17th last year, claiming that her boyfriend, Barker, one of the other good-looking guys, had assaulted her. So this guy made his way round to her flat, and
Is he white
he
knighting?
assaulted. But yeah,
he-
I think there's some white
So he was
knighting.
going to be. So Jordan was going to be a white knight here, and he's going over there to help her out.
Yeah. And
Okay.
then he decided to stay. He assaulted Barker. So like then all four of them were like, let's make this into a party. So they all started taking MDMA and they had a bit of a drink.
Wait. Okay, hold on a second. So Jordan, the guy that
Yes.
was attacked, he goes over to White Knight and saved this girl who claimed someone. He like fought someone when he went over there.
Yeah, he
Art-
he assaulted her boyfriend, who she said had assaulted her. It's all very like this is drama, isn't it? This is like
Very
Facebook
chavvy.
drama with like you okay, hun.
Yeah,
And-
very chavvy.
Yeah, and it went on like he went over on like the 17th, and these guys are carrying it on until February the 21st, which is my birthday.
So wait, they're all taking MDMA. He went over, he assaulted one,
They all
and then they're
began
like, let's just all
drinking.
party and take some MDMA.
This is bad MDMA because have you ever wanted to physically hurt anyone while taking MDMA?
I've never once felt inclined to carve the word nonce in
Nonce
someone's
onto someone's
back.
back.
under
You wanna
MDMA.
hook people, don't you? You wanna hook people and tell them you love them. This is not MDMA they're taking. It's bathtub speed.
I think it's cut with bleach or something. I don't even
Yeah.
know.
So, and also, while they were attacking Jordan, these very big brain people, they were filming the event and they put it on Facebook Live.
So wait, they're carving the word nonce in this guy, lighting this guy's
Stubbing
hand,
cigarettes
fire,
out on him. They're
smacking him
setting
with like a
on
sledgehammer,
fire. They hitting
and they
him with
put it to
wine
Facebook
bottles.
Live.
And he's on wine bottles. They're telling this guy that he's going to be murdered and it's on Facebook Live.
Sounds like a great podcast. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's probably got more views than this one.
Yeah.
So the police instantly alerted by, some terrified Shrek meme loving mum on Facebook. And they went round and the house was just covered in blood. There was blood like
Mm.
all up the walls from where they'd been torturing him. And his skin by this point, because you're talking 48 hours of torture, his skin was yellow because he was in acute kidney failure. He was going to
Ooh.
die.
Jaundice.
I know, he was nearly there. He had broken ribs, a broken nose, one broken toe, numerous cuts all over his body of varying depths, including over a dozen wounds to his forearms. He had extensive bruising to his face, all over his body, a deep cut into his thumb, so deep his bone was visible, cigarette burns on his arms and hands, and of course, the word nonce carved on his back.
Spelled incorrectly.
Spelled incorrectly.
This is like the worst MDMA trip.
It's awful,
You know?
isn't it?
Yeah, not
So
fun.
Jordan says that the injuries I sustained are horrific, and I genuinely thought they were going to kill me. I had accepted that this was the end for me. All I could think about was my children and family. I feared I would never see them again. Instead of killing me, they decided to scar me for life and carve nonce in big letters onto my back and degrade me for life while I was strapped to the chair. The footage was shared with almost everyone in my local area, and my friends and family had viewed how it was torture. The humiliation is beyond description. Being tortured was horrific. Wouldn't you love it, right?
Oh, man.
Right. If this guy was your enemy and it just popped up, you were like on Facebook and it popped up and you were like, hey, this fucking cunt's finally getting what's coming to
Go
him.
crack a beer and be like, I'm gonna watch this.
Yeah,
Sit
this
back
is,
and enjoy this.
this is good. So like now he's got these scars both physically and emotionally. He can't go back to work as a football coach. He can't support his probably 10 kids anymore. His life is all effectively over.
Do you think he
So-
tries to like say that the word nonce because it's spelled with an S is something else, not
yeah, I
an
mean-
actual pedophile?
He could be. He could say it's like an acronym for something else.
Yeah, or like some
Yeah.
kind of like candy or something. I don't know, who
You're
knows?
gonna have to get a tap, mate. So this is another part that I found hilarious. So Barker, the guy that he beat up, had 78 previous convictions. 78, and the other guy,
78.
Herman, had 25.
Good God.
Yeah, they
That many convictions.
Yeah,
and they're
so-
still like going out torturing other people.
So you've got 78 convictions, 25 convictions against you. How long do you think they were jailed for?
I'm hoping like longer than the guy who ate the person's heart out in the other story, like 20 years,
10
15
years, 3 months.
10 years.
10 years.
Do they get out early on good behavior?
They will, but I doubt they're going to be good. Something
Yeah, I
tells
don't think
me.
these guys are going to be good. I think these are some bad apples.
So the two ladies, McNally, who had 7 previous convictions, she got 9 years. And Wilson Ford, who had a clean record, no previous convictions, 2 years.
Wow.
2 years.
Wow. 2
And they
years.
tortured
is
him
it.
for 2 fucking days. Bloody Britain, man. Soft touch Britain.
They should do is have to
You
take
know
like,
what they
some
should bring
English
back?
courses or something.
They should bring back hanging for people who incorrectly spell the word nonce.
Yeah, I think they should have to take grammar lessons or something like that. I mean, how could between the 4 of them, not one of those fucking morons knew how to spell the word nonce?
It's big brain times. I would have loved to have been there for that bit when they were arguing because I bet one of them said, no, it's with a C. It's with an S. No, it's with
I
a
swear
C.
it's with a C.
If
No,
they'd-
it's not.
If
It's
they'd have been
bloody
torturing me
slag.
and they were putting it on my back, I'd have been like, it's with a C.
Yeah, it's like spell it right if I'm going to be branded for life.
Yeah, I'm going to get
You
a
know,
tattoo
start for
over
life
this
with it.
on the NHS.
God. Now that's the true tragedy here.
Mm,
Misspelled the word nonce.
it is.
You know. Anyway, people send your stories. StickAroundPodcast@gmail.com. We have some phone calls coming up next. 323-522-4032 is that number. Remember to keep it under 3 minutes, and we'll play it here on the show. Before we get to our first call, though, here's a word from Adam and Eve. All right.
Right, mate. It's
All right, mate.
another unseasonably warm day in February in Britain here.
I love how you say it's warm, but it's still like 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's warm here, actually. I don't know what temperature it currently is, but it's warm. It's sunshiny. It should not be. February is like, it still snows in February.
God, it's so fucking cold. It was like 75 degrees here today. People walking around in shorts.
Fahrenheit, as I say, Fahrenheit.
Yeah, Fahrenheit, of course.
Yeah, it's unnatural to live in the desert, and it's all fruit and nuts there.
Yeah, the land of fruit. My friend Chuck, his dad was probably one of the most racist men I think I've met. Bud, he was like a fire police chief or something, and like I forget not Detroit, it was south of Detroit, some small little town south of Detroit. Anyway, he didn't even call him dad, he called him Bud.
Nice.
He's just like that type of guy. And Bud smoked Marlboro Reds up until the day he died. Marlboro Reds. So
Did
he smoked
die
Reds.
Smoking a fag? Because that's how I'm imagining he died.
I mean, I think he died of cancer, but he
You
started
can prod
smoking
them
at the
my
age of
hands,
11.
boy. Yeah.
11 all the way till I think he lived to be like 70, 72.
It's pretty good. It's like
Bud
60
finally
years
died.
smoking. But
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And the
Yeah.
funniest thing about Bud is he was a little man. He was probably only like maybe 5'4", but he was definitely a
my
Napoleon
height.
complex kind of tough guy. Well, very
Yeah.
tough. Loved making fun of me for being
I
a
bet.
Jew
I bet.
and
Me
being
and Bud.
dreadlock too. I remember when I went over to Chuck's house and he was just like, Jesus Christ, get him in the house before the neighbors see him.
I
He
like
was
this
just
Bud.
like, oh yeah, he was funny. He was just like, what are you, black? And you're white? What's wrong with your hair? Yeah, very racist guy. But anyway.
What's wrong with your hair? I would have been like, why do you have your hair like that? Stop it.
Bud was also very fond of saying, he's just like, you're gonna move to California? That makes sense. Land of fruits and nuts. Which one are you? Probably both.
Hey, I like this Bud. I would
He
have had
had
a beer with him.
They had a cabin. So Bud was, I mean, yeah, Chuck's mom was still alive too, and then they were married till he died. But they had a cabin way up in northern Michigan, and it was just like this little, basically just a cabin where they went and shot deer and shot things, and they'd go up there and get super drunk and just go up to the cabin and go and kill things. And they're the type of hunters too, where it's like they weren't like going out like Ted Nugent, with a bow and arrow. It was just like Bud and Bud's friends would go sit up in a deer blind, and they'd either put like the doe female like vagina scent on trees.
I think it's urine that they use.
Urine or whatever.
Yeah.
Or they would just go get a shitload of like apples and like carrots and all food that deer eats and just sit there and get fucking wasted until finally a deer's like, sweet, look at all this awesome food, and just boom and blow its head off. That's hunting.
Yeah.
Assholes. But I remember one time I went up there with like my girlfriend, and Chuck was there with his fiance and a couple of his other friends. We were like hanging out, and me and my girlfriend like had one of the rooms, and I like opened up a nightstand, and there's just like a ton of like old porn, like porn mags from like 70s and 80s, like old hustlers, and then a bunch of notebooks. I opened up the notebook, and it was Bud's journal, basically. And Bud would go up there, and I was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. Bud's racist journal. And I read it, and it was like the most banal thing I think I've ever read. It was just like, saw a deer, saw 2 deers.
Went to the store and bought some milk.
Got some beer, saw a turkey. It was basically just that, but like notebooks of that.
Did you? They're relics. Did you keep them, or did Chuck?
No, well, I mean, it was Chuck's dad's stuff, but the cabin burned down, so I think it's all gone. They built a new one, but the cabin burned down.
I would have
Bud's cabin.
I would totally have kept one of them and like just smuggled it out of there.
Well, I think Bud retired early because he had a huge pension, and like a big pension.
Chief.
Actually, he didn't die of lung cancer. He died of asbestos cancer. Like
oh
poisoning
shit!
from,
Well, that's right. Yeah, so he got a payout because he had asbestos cancer.
Yeah, it was like a asbestos or cancer from that, and he still smoked. But he would like, since he didn't do anything, like his, you have to work. His routine, I always found it kind of funny. Like his routine was, he would get up like super early, like 4:30, 5 a.m. Yeah,
Old people love getting up early. I will never be that.
I
old
don't
person.
get it either.
I am
and
a
then
night person. That's when
he
I
would go to
bed.
this diner Like he'd go to a diner with his friends, the first people to show up there,
Oh,
and they would
annoying.
go. They would have they
The
would
same
eat for an
fucking thing to
hour.
eat
Same
every day
people
as well.
every
Yeah.
day, and then like around 11 a.m. he'd go to the bar, and he would just be at that bar, the same bar. It was like because he was a veteran. It was like a
Yeah.
VFW type place, same bar, and
Till
then
like
he'd
3
come home at
p.m.
like a 3 or 4, and then come home, eat dinner, and go to bed, and rinse and repeat. And then the only difference would be, some like 5 days, some weeks he'd go up to the cabin just by himself and write in his journal
Solo
and shoot
work.
things. Bud,
Oh my word, what a life.
rest in peace, good old Bud. All right, let me
It's
grab a
making me-
beer.
Yeah, it's making me nostalgic for pubs though.
Yeah, we went to that VFW pub with him, and it was kind of cool. It's just exactly what you picture, like wood paneled, like a bunch of old
An
grizzled
American flag.
veterans.
An
Yeah,
American
the big
flag.
American flag. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the social clubs here. You've got different types of social clubs. It sounds like that. That's what I'm
Do
thinking.
you guys have like VFW halls?
Oh yeah, we've got like Royal Legions. There's usually like a Royal Legion in
The
like
Royal
every town and city.
Legion.
Yeah, and they do fundraising work, but that's where all the vets go.
Well, this guy said you heard of a place. Oh wow, someone used to live near Chickasha, Oklahoma. Chickasha.
Chickasha. Okay.
Wow. There's a place called Bell End. There's a place called Bell
So
End.
yeah, Big Bone Lick State Park.
Michigan has Big Beaver Road. I always thought that was cool. Big Beaver Road. Yeah.
We're known as Big Brown Beaver. That's Primus.
Oh,
I'm
God,
sorry for mentioning Primus.
God,
I always
terrible.
mention the lamest bands on the show. And because I'm mentioning Red Hot Chili Peppers last week. And another band.
Your favorite band. Hold on a second. I'm gonna grab a beer.
I want to know what the temperature is outside. I'm going to Google it. Instead of just looking out my window. Let's do it.
Fucking branching out. Check it out.
Oh, what have you got? Oh, we can't get that over here. At least I've never seen it.
Tecate?
Yeah,
Tecate's like shitty Corona. It's
Oh.
like cheap Corona. Yeah.
You know what beer I really love? I really love Modelo. Love Modelo.
Modelo's better than Corona. It goes like Modelo, Corona, and then Tecate is towards the bottom.
Right. So it's currently 7 degrees outside here. In your American speak, it's 44.6.
Hey, that's fucking cold.
It's not though.
I'd be freezing my balls off.
It's
fucking
that's
cold.
unseasonably warm. It should not be near 10 degrees right now.
Fucking cold. All right. Let me just do a quick.
Hey, D and K.
All right. You can hear it. Cool.
Nice. I love the phone calls.
So we got a few phone calls to get to. 323-522-4032 is that number. The first call is somebody who's kind of helping us out. He listened to the show. We were confused about something, which happens frequently.
It
and
does happen.
he's helping us out.
I like it.
Hey, D and Kate. So I'm listening to this week's episode, and you're playing that movie clip where the gal pisses on the guy, and you're wondering what he said right before that. It sounds. I rewound it a couple of times.
This is Ilsa She-Wolf. This is when we were talking about the Nazi porn.
Yeah, he's saying I love you, I think.
Yeah, there's a scene where the guy
Yeah, that's
says
what he's
something
saying,
while
I
he's
think.
getting pissed on. Yeah, it's very erotic. Very erotic.
Sounds like he's saying "Ich liebe dich," which means "I love you" in German.
Yep.
So
there you go.
anyway, keep it straight, keep it wrong.
I like this guy's voice.
Dankeschön. Ja, das ist super gut.
Dankeschön.
Yeah.
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 Thanks for clearing
Yeah,
that
I
up.
like that guy's voice too. Ring back and do a whole segment in German, and it will be like I'm back in school. Did you
I
have to
wonder-
when you were in school? Did you have to like study a foreign language?
Yeah, we you had your choice: Spanish, French, or German. I did Spanish.
Yeah, we only had French or German, and I did German.
Yeah, it's Spanish. You
Not
can
saying
pick
I was
up
good at it,
languages though.
but I did it.
Yeah, when you're a kid, you pick up language. I wish I would have stuck with Spanish. I mean, I can still kind of remember stuff.
I'm bad at the romantic languages, but I like Germanic because it's like based like English. Like you'd say, "Hello, my Name is Kate." Like, "Hello, my name is Kate."
Yeah, that's not too hard. When I was in when I was in Spain, this is like 20 years ago now. But when I was in Spain, I was the only one that could speak Spanish. And like Madrid, like there weren't even that many people in like 1999 that spoke, English. It was like, most people didn't even know English or broken English. Anyway, I was able to get 2 grams of hash and like a gram of cocaine just speaking in Spanish.
Well,
Yeah,
that's the
impressed.
test. All you ever need when you go traveling abroad is you just need to say like, "How can I get a beer?" or like 1 beer. That's all you need, and like
It's
stuff
yeah,
like that.
that's pretty much
You
it.
just need to say 1, 2, 3, and say how to say hello and thank you. It's easy, mates.
Next call we have here is the atheist preacher calling
Nice.
in about the snake handler.
Oh, cool.
Hey, Brother D, Sister Kate. This is Atheist Preacher. And wow, you guys really shook the cobwebs off of a memory talking about them snake handlers. So I've been to a few of those services.
Wow.
I've always wanted to go to a snake handler service. I don't think you see too many around LA. I wonder if there's any Jewish snake handlers. I doubt it. It'd be
No.
great.
My Nana and my Papa, rest in peace, both of them. They used to live in Missouri. And this was like 2008, 2009. I must have been, shit. Sister Kate. This is Atheist Preacher.
Shit.
And
Oh.
summer up there, baling hay and taking 2008, 2009. I must have been, shit, 11 or 12, somewhere in there. And they spent the summer up there, baling hay and taking care of the cows. And I had to go to church. And they went to this church, this fall, in this damn old barn. And yeah, it was basically what y'all saw in the videos. I don't remember fucking everything about it, but I remember, if you guys care for a little inside look, they would always, it's more like a regular church than it seems. They were
They look so shitty. It was like this very rustic looking room.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
did his grandparents go there all the time?
I
Were
think
they
his
snake
grandparents were snake
handlers?
handlers.
Oh my word! You'd think like you think AP's parents would have been like, yeah, you're gonna go out and see your papa and mama, but don't go to church with them.
Your Pep and your Mima.
Your
You're
pep
not
pep
allowed
and
to
your
go
Mima.
handle their diamondback rattlesnakes, all
Yeah,
right?
we've told them you're not going to church with them, so you can sleep in on a Sunday. You think
Had
his
to have been a
parents-
sore point, Had to
Yeah.
have been, especially growing up, like with your parents being snake handlers, being like, Mom, Dad, I don't think it's a good idea to play with a fucking venomous
Especially
snake.
at the age of 12, there's only one type of snake you want to be handling. Heyo.
You.
crystals, though. So take that what you will. But so they start out with fellowship, basically come in, people hanging out, drink coffee. I was a little kid, I was playing with the other kids. And then, you sit down, you hear the sermon, and the preacher usually holds snakes there, is holding them while he's preaching. And then,
I mean, I guess I would sit way in the back. It'd be cool to watch. I mean,
It would be cool to watch. I don't think you have to handle the snakes if you don't want to.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know how many, like, did you ever have to go to any services? Did you ever have to go to church or anything like that?
Never. I'm from a non-religious household.
Oh, that's good because it's boring as fuck. It is so fucking boring.
Up
So, I
until
mean-
my dad's funeral, I'd never been to a funeral before, and I'd never been in a church for as long as that.
Wow.
Because it was like a
Did
40-minute
you,
service.
Did your body start smoking as soon as you walked
I was like,
inside? Just
yeah, as soon
no,
as
I mean,
walked in.
growing up, the son of a rabbi, it's like, we had to go to temple all the time. It's fucking boring.
Boring. Yeah, well, it's
Yeah.
church, isn't it? There's no sign. You don't buy a ticket on the way in.
No, it's just,
Like-
yeah. So if my father was up there, like fucking with rattlesnakes and shit, I'd been like, well, this is cool because he might die and get bitten. It's like, it's, there's some suspense going on rather than me just hearing
As
him.
soon as a
you know-
snake is involved in a situation, it automatically becomes 10 times cooler.
Yeah,
because
10
snakes
times more
are
interesting.
cool.
I would
Yeah.
like to sit in the back away from the snakes, but I would like to watch it.
Mhm.
they have what they call, like, I think it's like channeling the spirit or embodying the spirit or something like that. And that's the video you guys saw, them dancing around and listening to music and singing and, doing the whole Snagatawafaka, Kanawala Katalo, the speaking in tongues. And
Whoa, what'd you just say there, AP?
I thought he was reading from the Torah for a second then.
Nah, you was speaking in tongues there. What'd you say? I want to know. Give us a call
I thought
back.
tongues was just like you spoke nonsense.
Well, I think that was nonsense, but maybe it means something. I don't know.
Oh, okay. I didn't think there was a meaning to it.
all that sort of nonsense.
Nonsense.
And then after that, they did, they had baptisms and all that shit. I don't.
With the snakes? Like, were the snakes involved with the baptism?
Oh my god, wouldn't that be so cute if the little snake gave you a little kiss on your forehead with its little tongue? Oh, I would love that.
I just think if you dumped them in like a pool of water that was filled with snakes.
Oh yeah, no, not you don't even need the water. You would just like put all the snakes in a tub and then you
a
like just
pit.
dip the baby's head in the snakes and then they all give you a little kiss. Oh, delightful.
Or possibly bite you and you die instantly.
they're
'cause
not
you're a
going to bite
child.
you because they're nice animals.
Because Jesus is protecting you. Isn't that the way it works?
I think that is the way that it works.
If anybody got bit, I think I would if somebody did. So at least for that summer I was there, people were passing around snakes while they were channeling the spirit or whatever it was they called it. But yeah, people were passing around snakes and nobody got bit. I don't know if they're trained snakes or they were trained snakes or what. I was just a kid, but that was some fucking crazy shit, man. And that was like the first step to me losing my little boy religion. And then yeah, but that's some fucking crazy shit, man. You do not want to fuck with those people. Yep. I reckon that's about all. You guys have a good day. Adios. Lick my balls.
Yay!
Wow, we did the classic Trucker Paul
That's-
salutation.
well, he's our new trucker Paul, but he's also
He is, yeah.
he's the preacher Paul.
Well, he's the former preacher, atheist preacher.
I was thinking at the end, wouldn't it be a great weapon? I'm pretty sure it probably kills the snake, but it would be a great weapon to like go into battle with if you're like going like this, like using it like a lasso, a snake above your head. Like people would just be intimidated. If you had like a rattler and you're shaking it around your head and you're going into battle, that's scary.
I guess. I mean, it could bite. It might bite you though.
It won't bite. No,
Mhm.
because you would hold it by its tail and you'd be swinging it around. People are going to be scared of you. It might hurt the
I get-
snake though.
yeah. Yeah, it probably would
Yeah.
kill the snake.
I'm not in the business of hurting reptiles, so I wouldn't be.
You'd probably
about
be
that.
dizzy. Yeah, I would love to see one of these days. I definitely want to go to a snake handling service just to see it. I just want to check it out. And I mean, they're all over the South. Once you go there, when I went to Nashville for my 40th birthday, a few years ago.
20 years
Um,
ago.
no,
Back
it
when
wasn't-
black
no,
and
it
white
wasn't-
telly was still popular.
It wasn't my 40th. I think it was like my 42nd. But anyway, when we went there, you could go to a service that Al Green leads.
No way! Did you go to?
Yeah. I wanted to, but he ended up, I guess, not being in town that day because we called and he
Oh,
wasn't
I would have
there.
gone to that for sure.
Yeah, but fucking Al Green is a preacher. So see Al
Yeah.
Green lead a service? How
Yeah.
great would that be? I don't think
Oh.
there's any snakes, though.
Al Green is good enough. He can replace a snake. But yeah, I would go. I'm totally the type of person that would get bitten by a snake because I'd be like, can I hold all the snakes?
You'd want to play with the snakes.
I would want
I
to play
wonder-
with all the snakes. I love them.
It'd be cool if they did other animals like tarantulas or something, like other
I would-
venomous creatures.
I would
You
totally
know?
go to Tarantula Church. Tarantulas
Yeah,
are
like-
cool.
And everyone would have like spiders crawling all over them.
Yeah, I would do that. I think I would pretty much go to any animal church. Unless it was a monkey church. I'm not going there. No, I'm not going to monkey church, and I'm not going to go to panda church either. Or
Actually, I
sloth
wouldn't mind.
church.
I wouldn't mind a monkey church.
You want to go to monkey church? They're
just
going to
if
rip
the
your
monkey-
face off.
Yeah, if the monkeys are leading the service and you just have to like watch it and go along with it,
It would
I
be-
could get into that.
It would be mayhem. They'd be chucking their shit at you. Is that
It
what
would
you
be
want?
bananas. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you there, atheist preacher.
Love hearing from you, brother.
Next call we have here is one that I actually had forgotten to play that I've had for a while, and then I just found it the other day. Do you remember when this was like a couple months ago? But this guy's great. I met him when I was in Tokyo. He's a longtime listener. Adam from Tokyo.
Oh,
He
yes.
called me in. He was talking about being arrested, and
Oh,
we asked him
yeah.
what a Japanese prison's like.
Yes.
Well, he
this is
had
a
called
follow-up
back to
that.
tell us what the Japanese prison's like, and I guess I misplaced the phone call.
What
So
the
then-
hell, D?
Well, I just found it, so now we can listen to it. I don't think there's snakes in the Japanese prison.
No, I think there's metaphorical snakes.
Yeah, metaphorical snakes.
Sick Renan. It's Adam calling from Japan again. Suitably wasted. Drinking some fucking sour plum highballs.
Sour
Anyhow,
plum
I
highballs, huh?
appreciate you guys airing my call the other day. Despite you guys having no idea what the fuck you're talking about Japan as usual. But I won't get into all of the corrections department shit, all your errors. But answering some questions, man. You guys asked me like 15 questions in a row too, and I'm drunk, so I'll try my best. But he said when I was in jail, like how could I speak to people? And I guess there's a black dude in the next cell over who is really cool, actually. He's a nice cat who someone had sort of framed for selling dime bags when he was basically a club owner. But that's some racist shit I'll speak on later or never. But cool guy. In the next cell, he would translate for me a lot. And that was awesome. And then
Yeah, that's got to be tough because when you're in prison in Japan and you're American or, not Japanese, like how do you would be able to know what they're telling you to do?
Yeah, that's a good point. But they
You
will
know?
tell you what you're doing.
Did you ever see? I can't think of the name of this movie, but it's about like this English guy who gets busted for dealing heroin in Thailand. And he goes to a Thai prison and becomes a kickboxer. Did you ever see that movie?
I don't know that one, but I know the old one where he's in like a Turkish jail.
Oh no, that's Midnight Express. It's
That's
Oliver
I know
Stone
that
movie.
one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But this one's gnarly. It's like he's in a fucking Thai prison and he's an English guy, only white guy in there, and they're like raping dudes, beating the fuck out of people, and then he becomes like this kickboxer. He like trains and like is good at it.
Isn't that the backstory to Bane in Batman? No, that's the
Bane get
backstory
raped
to
in a Thai
fucking.
prison.
That's the backstory to bloody Batman. You know,
No, well, this is a true story. It's a true story based on a guy.
well,
it's
Batman
not-
ripped it off.
Well, maybe. I mean, this guy
Bale's
was Bane
Batman.
dealing heroin in Bangkok.
No, it's Bale's Batman. Remember, he's in the jail and he kind of gets liberated, and then he comes back to Gotham. But it's the Bane, the one with Bane in it.
But did Bane train to become a kickboxer?
I would have sex with Bane from Batman. Just putting it out there.
But yeah, I forget the name of the movie, but it's pretty good. It's very, very violent. Anyway, it'd be difficult to be in a foreign prison. That's what I'm trying to say.
Of course.
Rambo Chan, you're so cute, and man, but you're asking me about handicap wrestling. Like this is a really regular thing in Japan. Like, yes, every single person in Japan gets together and watches handicap people wrestling. I mean, I've lived here 17 years. I never fucking heard of it. Absolutely. It's up there with the panties in vending machines as being some sort of a mythology. But I would say
You can buy panties. Come on, dude. You can buy panties at the porn shops.
You can go to
Did-
handicap wrestling as well.
I didn't see vending machines with panties, but you can go to porn shops and they have like little plastic tubes with panties and a picture of the girl. I don't know if they're used or not. I'm
I'm
assuming
coming
they
over
are.
to Tokyo, and me and Adam are going to go to handicap wrestling. And then after it, we're going to go and buy some used panties. It'll be a great day.
You probably could sell your panties, make some money over there.
Every episode, you tell me that I could sell my panties or my socks.
I'm just
Stop
saying.
trying to monetize every situation. I know
I'm
why
just
you're doing
saying
this because of your
we em-
background.
I'm just saying we embroider sick and wrong on your panties.
Oh, okay.
And we sell them here on the show. Kate Rambo's used panties, a little sick and wrong logo on it. Think of the money. Think of the
I'm
dollars.
thinking,
all right?
I'm thinking of the shekels too. Yes, just like you are constantly.
Think of the shekels.
that I did feverishly masturbate to something called Smack Girl about fucking 15 years ago. There was like this sort of, it was almost like anime. It was like these chicks, really cute girls who would do like pro wrestling. So I've always found pro wrestling and a lot of UFC stuff when it's grappling really fucking gay. I really like to
Yes,
watch it.
He's
is.
got a point there.
UFC, like I can't get into UFC just because they spend an inordinate amount of time cuddling. I know it must fucking hurt, but they're just, it's all it looks like is like two grown men cuddling each other and they're sweating. It gives me the gay bumps,
As Steele would say.
as
You know,
Steele would
I
say.
don't mind seeing like a supercut of the UFC best knockouts because then
Yeah.
you know it's going to be like some crazy shit, someone getting knocked out. But when you actually watch a UFC fight, 9 times out of 10, it's two guys in a 69 position rolling around on the ground trying to choke each other out with their balls in their face. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not.
it's
It's
boring.
boring, and it's it gives you the gay bumps. It's not. I don't understand why anyone would want to watch it.
I don't get it
You
either.
know, but yeah, I don't really. I don't. I think I know I've told this story on the show before. You might not have heard it, so let's revisit it. I remember when I was living in San Francisco in the Mission. I was living right down the street from a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Gracie's like one of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu famous guys. And I was living. He had a dojo or whatever the fuck is right up the street. And I was like, I used to do Taekwondo when I was a kid, and I was thinking, I'm gonna get into martial arts and Jiu-Jitsu sounds cool. I'm gonna check it out. And so I went over there and I asked the guy, I was like, oh, I'd like to learn more, check it out. I'm interested in learning more about it. He's like, well, why don't you hang out, watch maybe a session or a training, a class and see if you like it. And then we can talk about it. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm hanging out watching it. And yeah, sure enough, it's like these dudes are wearing like fucking spandex shorts and they're in a 69 position, and this guy's balls were pretty much like right in this dude's face. Like it was like Arabian goggles. His balls were right on the guy's fucking face. And I was like sitting there looking at him. They're in this position trying to like choke each other out for like 5 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna go.
Is that when you walked home with your chub and just had a wank as soon as you got in? That's free porn to you.
That's why I left. Yeah. Anyway.
But I do like watching girls try to tear each other's bikinis off, which is the smack girl thing was all about, and it was fucking dope. And that's about it, man. Thank you guys for airing my calls as usual, and I love you both. And I think Kate is fucking dope. Welcome, Kate Chan, and come by.
Kate-san.
Adam from Japan, peace.
Kate-san.
Stick around.
This
Adam,
guy was
bring-
rad.
Yeah, I want to bring back with some more crazy Japan stories, Adam. You've got
Adam,
to
that's cool.
have more.
When I was there, I was there with my friend Danny, and like we ended up hanging out with him for a day. And he took us to this area of Japan where this is one of the weirdest things about Japan is every restaurant you went to, instead of just having a menu with pictures of actual food, they had like these fake plastic representations of food.
Okay, one of my favorite things in life is fake plastic food. I love it.
Well, you would love this area of
would-
Tokyo.
Oh my god, I'd
It-
be trying to buy the representations.
It's
of the fake plastic
expensive.
food.
It's super expensive. I couldn't believe it. Like how much yen it costs for these fucking like plastic, sculptures of food.
Yeah.
But it's like he took us to this area where all the restaurants must buy the plastic sculptures of food. And I mean, there's just like, I don't know, 200 stores that you walk in and it's like, this is where I buy the plastic steaks. This is where I buy the plastic eggs. This is where
oh
I buy
my,
the...
I would be
It
in
was
heaven.
it was the weirdest thing.
It is
It was so weird.
Do you
Yeah,
think
I don't-
Adam's ever been to the suicide forest? Do you think Adam's ever discovered a body?
I don't know if he's ever discovered a... Maybe. I don't know. I didn't ask him that, actually. I'm sure he's been in the suicide forest. It's not that far from Tokyo.
Yeah. Do you think people
Yeah.
just go there for like little day trips to go and like eat the
I-
sandwiches?
You know,
Sorry,
I
sushi.
wanted... It's at the base of Mount Fuji. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to go there. My buddy Danny was just like, I'm not going to go. It's lame. And I was like, what?
I
It's
think
not
Danny
lame.
Danny was scared of finding a dead body because he'd have to live stream it on
Danny's
the
lame.
internet.
I think Danny wants to see two men grappling.
Stop
He wants
slagging off your
to-
friend Danny.
Anyway, Adam, it's good to hear from you, man.
Yeah.
People
love you,
call
Adam.
Sick and Wrong hotline 323-522-4032. People check out the Sick and Wrong Reddit page. It's kind of going off. I've been posting some stuff there recently.
Disgusting stuff.
Some
you have.
disgusting stuff. There is some there's a lot of gross shit on there, but it's an interesting place, that Reddit. r/Sick and Wrong podcast, no spaces. Also, the Patreon is blowing up. It's blowing up, dude.
Had loads of good guests on there recently. It's really fun.
Yeah, we actually, I posted about it on Facebook, but Stephanie and Jer were on doing an outtake, talking about like the horrors of pregnancy, and it was gnarly. It's fucking gnarly, the whole thing. Like I couldn't even imagine. I couldn't even imagine my wife going through that ordeal.
I know.
You know?
She's
God.
very
And
brave. So is
I
Jen.
talked to her. I talked to her this week, and she was saying that she went to the doctor, and they said like her cervix is dilated like 3 or 4 centimeters.
Any day
So
now.
any day now, it's gonna happen. So it's kind of crazy.
Team Viper, by the way. I'm Team
Oh
Viper.
yeah. Everybody's there's one thing that we get into in this outtake is I give her this list of names, like 30 names, and she's like yay or nay. But Viper is one of the names that Kate came up with. It's good.
I like it.
good.
Viper is a cool fucking baby.
He's gonna grow up to be like a CIA
beatnik.
operative.
No, I'm seeing he'll be a beatnik with a pompadour and a leather jacket on a
A
motorbike.
GI Joe character. That's what's gonna happen. But
Yes,
a
but
badass.
That GI Joe character has been discontinued in like the 50s. That's how old you are.
But anyway, if you go to Patreon right now, we get all this extra content. We do an extra news story, extra phone calls. We also do a segment called the Sick and Wrong News, where this week we do a story of an Edinburgh man getting his tongue bitten off by an Edinburgh woman in a street brawl and a seagull eating the tongue. It's a great story. We also go into a lot of detail about Lady Gaga's dog walker getting shot and her Frenchies stolen right up the street, right? It's literally like 6 streets away from where I live. So if you check that out, it's a new segment we got going on. We also do our bonus mini-sode, additional episode of Sick and Wrong called Sick and Wrong Overkill, where Kate did the whole episode on Sam Kinison, her favorite comedian.
Yeah, I may or may not cry as well. So you should listen to it to see if I may or may not cry.
Kate is very inspired by Sam Kinison and his comedic abilities.
I love Sam Kinison.
We also actually recorded the first installment of D's Wacky Records. D's Wacky Records coming out this week.
Sam Kinison, so that's how those
Played 2 different bits of Sam Kinison. It was actually kind of fun. I was wondering how I was going to do this because I pretty much just had to like put a mic up next to one of my speakers and just play records right off of and a lot of the, right off my turntable. A lot of these records are super old. I mean, I've had them forever.
You played some of the Rabbis.
Rabbis, right? Yeah, Rabbis records. So, but yeah, basically I just got really high and played novelty records for an hour.
Yeah,
but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, go check out D's Wacky Records. Anyway, all that action is going on patreon.com/sick and wrong. For $5, you basically get an extra show every week. Also the T Public store. I know we just had a sale this past week, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there. If you want to get some Sick and Wrong merch, just like the banner behind both of us, you can get these a lot of Sick and Wrong merch going on. Just go to sickandwrongpodcast.com/shop and click on the picture of the Pope. Finally here, Sick and Wrong Song of the Week. I really, really like this song. And I was so bummed to like, this happens every now and then. You find a song and you're just like, I got to get this record. And you go on Discogs or eBay to see if you can find it, and you find the record, and it's like $800.
Yeah, happens a lot. Happens a lot.
So anyway, this song is by a guy named Panther Man. He calls himself Panther Man. It's a kind of Dutch glam rock from the mid 70s. His name's Frank Kloonhar, and he took the persona of a costume glam rocker called Panther Man, which he's basically just wearing this like leather suit with like a kind of like a Black Panther kind of mask with like claws. He was inspired by a Roxy Music gig in 1974 in Rotterdam. And he was just like, you know what? I'm going to make this Panther Man. That's my character now. And so he'd wear this like black leather Panther Man suit and come out. And he only really put out a 45, but this 45 is like $500. It's like a 7 for $500.
Yeah.
I know. I was so bummed about it. But yeah, he's like, you can do a search on YouTube. You can see him in his custom made black leather suit and his mask. It's pretty amazing. So the song that we're gonna end is his self-titled Panther Man song. So great. I love it. He's like, I am the Panther Man. I'll show you my claws.
Yeah.
It's so great. It's a great song. So we're gonna end the show here with that. People will be back next week with episode 781. Till then, take it sleazy. Yeah, I love that song. I
Keep
am
it
the
music.
Panther Man.
I love the video. The video's amazing.
Oh, he's so great.
You
He's
can
so
tell
great.
he loves Roxy music. But who doesn't?
Oh, yeah.
We all love the Roxy.
Well, he was inspired by Fellini as well. I didn't read that, but he was inspired by the 1969 film Fellini Satyricon, which there's a character that's kind of wearing like a panther type suit. It's pretty great.
For all the Brits who are listening at the minute, Tesco's is doing a deal where you get 12 Kronenberg for £9. Don't fall for it because they're 275s, not 330. I made that mistake.
What?
I've like hammered 12 Kronenbergs in basically a day and a half.
Whoa, check it
I
out.
should have checked. It's my own fault. I should have checked because I do an online shop. But why? Why 275s? Why did they even exist?
Did you get more beer? Or are you out of beer? Weren't
No,
you
I've
saying the other day when we
Yeah,
were
the
recording
other day I
Patreon
went
that you're
to the
out of
shop
beer?
And I've also got more beer.
Oh, what kind of beer is that?
Oh, God, I can never say it's the Prague beer. Star of
Well, I think I had that in Prague.
You will have done.
Starofum.
I can never fucking
Stro-
say it. It's
yeah,
just
I
the
don't
Prague
know.
beer.
I like light beer. I'm not a big fan of dark beer. Can't really drink it. Find it too bitter.
No, I
think
don't
it's
like dark
gross.
beer. Yeah.
But fucking Prague, all the pilsners in Prague. I was like blown away.
That's my favorite. It's
fucking-
got to be 5%. I like beer at precisely 5%.
Yeah.
Well, that is
better
a
than
pilsner when
fucking
it's
Tecate,
5%.
which is
Well, what's
basically just
the percent
water.
of that?
Oh, let's see here.
I think Modelo is 5%.
Is it?
I think so.
This is 4.5.
Kronenberg, 5%.
Kronenberg's a
bet-
good beer.
I bet
That's a
this
good
is
beer.
5%. 5%. I am a 5% lager.
5%er.
chick.
Well, that's the thing with the dark beers. Aren't the dark beers like fucking 9%?
Some of them are, yeah. They're just like
Oh,
they get
fuck
fucking
that.
drunk. I do like
Yeah,
a lot
fuck
of the
that.
Polish beers, but a lot of them are very strong. I used to drink a lot of Tishki. A lot of Tishki all the time.
Is Polish beer like a lighter beer, like a Pilsner? Or is Polish like.
No, Poland are drinkers. They want to get fucked when they drink. There's no light. You can get light beer here, but there's not like a thing. It's not like a movement.
What time are the bars open in Poland?
It depends where you go in Poland, but like
Like
Warsaw, you can-
Krakow or Warsaw.
Krakow, they've got 24-hour delis where you can go and get booze. But the pubs like all shut at varying different times.
That was the one thing I found remarkable about Japan because I don't know. I mean, Asians typically like don't handle their liquor well. Like there's
Yeah.
the Asian gene, like you always because I have like Asian friends, and it's like yeah, they just can't drink them well. Japan is a fucking drinking culture. They drink so much there. I was
They
blown
love
away
getting
by it.
drunk, don't they?
They
They
fucking
do.
love getting hammered to the point where they pass out in the bushes, and no one fucks with them because everyone's really honest there.
This is Japan. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're on the train and there's this Japanese dude fucking wasted, passed out, barfed all over his fucking new iPhone, and his iPhone's just on the ground and no one touched it. No one fucked with him. No, in America, the iPhone would have been taken and he would have been rolled. They would have shuffled through his pockets and taken his wallet and whatever, anything else of value. But in Japan, no one fucks with you. They just leave it. So it's like he's sitting there laying there with his barf all over his iPhone and it's fine. But the thing is that's pretty amazing about what I noticed in Tokyo is they're very gracious people. So it's like when you're in there and you're drinking, they're going to keep the bar open as long as you want to stay and drink.
Really?
So we're in bars, like we're in like the Golden Guy section, which is like all
The
this little
golden
tiny-
guy.
Yeah, Golden Guy. It's kind of a touristy sort of area, but sort of famous in Tokyo. It's like these tiny little bars, like little closets that you go in there and like there's room for like 4 people to drink.
Oh, so
there's
it's like
tons-
the size of this room.
Yeah,
basically, that I'm in
it's like
now. It's
kind
tiny.
of tiny
Yeah.
little rooms, but they're really cool. They're all themed. Like there's this really awesome metal one I forget.
Cool.
And there's another that was like a horror theme. There's a Motorhead bar. It's
But
like
you said a
it's
horror
really
theme then. Yeah.
yeah. There's some others there. There were whores there, but anyway, like we went into this one and we were there till like 8:30 a.m. The bartender was sleeping, and we're just like, is this just never closed? And they are so polite and so gracious that it's like they'll let you drink as long as until you're ready to leave.
Fuck that.
I've
When I
never
worked-
seen that anywhere.
Oh my god, when I worked in bars, my favorite job was always ringing the bell. Ringing the bell twice. You got 15 minutes, and then when you call time, it's an amazing feeling. 'Cause then you
Yeah, that
just
was
walk
my
around
That
telling
was my
people to get the fuck
favorite
out.
thing. My
Yeah.
favorite thing at the Gold Club, because the Gold Club is open. Well, first of all, it's open till 2, but then they changed it to 4 a.m.
Mhm.
So you'd be in there till 4 a.m., like all fucking night from like 7 till 4 a.m., 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. And so at the very last song, when you play, like, Gentlemen's the last song of the night, I would play that Ludacris song, Cry Babies Go Home. Oh no. Like, it was so great when you put that on. It's just like, fuck you, get out. Definitely the best part of the night.
I agree.
Anyway, people, on that note, I think we got to sign out for the night. And thanks for listening, everybody.
On the day for the Brits. Yeah, thank you everyone who was
Yeah.
sticking with us from beginning to end and in between.
The whole time. All right. Go check out those